This Is Shit's True. I realized after like fucking 40 something episodes, we don't actually ever introduce ourselves or the show in any way. We've never done that.
Fucking Christ.
So I'm Dorcas. This is Scoots. We like to learn about fucking anything, honestly. So we've decided to combine that with our love of movies with This Is Shit's True podcast, where we're going to compare movies that are based on true stories and how close they got it to the true history of that story.
Which
And
is
tonight,
usually barely.
yeah, and tonight we're doing the great Billie Holiday. Uh, with The State v. Billie Holiday is a Hulu original, came out in 2021. Uh, and this week's was Scoots Week. So take it
Yeah.
away, Scoots.
Scoots Week was a monster. So to start out, we have a huge fucking cast, right? So we've got
Yeah.
Billy, played by Andra Day. Leslie Jordan makes appearance, which broke my fucking heart. Every time I see him now, I'm like, fuck. Um,
Yeah.
Eric LeRae Harvey plays James Monroe. Natasha Lyonne is in here, which was I didn't realize she was in this, but she plays Tallulah Bankhead. Divine Joy Randolph plays Rosalind, which I love her to death. Trevante Rhodes as Jimmy. Tyler James Williams as Lester, who I also love to death. If you're not watching, what's that show about the public school? Shit,
Oh,
I can't remember what it's called. Hold on, and I'll find out because it's B
I
got me
love
into
how you
watching
are
that
like, if you're not watching,
blank,
fuck,
and
what's
then I
that
don't
show
know
called?
what the fuck the show is called. Although, I'm sorry. Hold on. I clicked on the wrong name. I was like, that's
But he's from
not
Everybody
Tyler.
Hates Chris
Yeah,
after old.
he's Chris. Yeah, Abbott
Yeah.
Elementary. That's what it is.
Abbott Elementary, yes.
Yes, and he was also in The Walking Dead, and I was so angry when they killed him off. He's such a good actor.
Oh yeah.
Melvin Gregg plays Joe Guy, or Joe the Dope Man, and Rob Morgan is Louis McKay. So this cast is totally stacked, like completely
Yes.
stacked, and it's an amazing performance by everyone in the fucking cast. Um, we start out with an infographic as we usually do, and it's a picture of what seems like a bunch of white men standing over a totally burned corpse, which was not prepared to immediately start the movie that way.
No.
And then they tell us that in 37, a bill to finally ban the lynching of black people was considered by the Senate, but it didn't pass. And Billy rose to fame in part due to her song Strange Fruit, which is a lyrical, horrifying description of a lynching. Um, the first time we see her, she's just on a stage, like in this amazing dress with the hair, the
Mm-hmm.
Billy hair. And the actress that they chose to play her is gorgeous, but even when you look at pictures of Billie Holiday, she's just like stunning, absolutely stunning. So we start in New York City, May 3rd, 1957. Leslie Jordan is there in this totally cluttered and rundown office.
And the craziest fucking hair.
Craziest hair. And he's playing a man by the name of Reginald Lord Devine. He wants to interview, he's there to interview Billy. Billy is there with Miss Freddie. Billy, compared to the Billy that we just saw on the screen, totally put together. I mean, absolutely gorgeous. This Billy that we're seeing looks honestly just like ran down. She
Yeah.
looks exhausted. She's got huge bags under her eyes, and she just kind of looks done with everything.
Yeah.
So he shuffles around and he brings out this huge ass fucking recorder. He has to like attach a mic to it to start recording her. Um, and he is extremely peppy. He's like so excited. There's a child.
Oh Lord. Can you hear them? No.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Okay.
Just ignore them.
Just ignore the child.
I'm not ignoring
Um,
it. The husband is sitting right over there, so he's talking to him. But yeah,
He can handle the child.
yeah, it's good. He's good.
um, but he's totally fucking excited to
Oh
be
yeah,
interviewing Billie Holiday. And he introduces her by saying, "My next guest has appeared on Broadway. She sold out Carnegie Hall. She played in movies with Louis Armstrong." And then he asks her, "What do you want to be called? Do you want to be called Billie Holiday, or do you want me to call you Lady Day?" And Freddie immediately interrupts and says, "She'd prefer if you paid the money up front." And I
yeah,
was like, "God damn,
yeah.
okay,
I was like, wow, all right. And then
hello."
he does that, but then his very first question is, how's it feel to be a colored woman? And she's
Yeah, how
just
does it
like,
feel to be a
what
sea
the
woman?
fuck?
And she's like, "Would you ask Doris Day that question?" And he
Yeah,
starts laughing and he's like, "Well, Doris Day is not a sea, silly." Like he acts like it's absolutely ridiculous. And I was like I know it's 19 was it 1957, like I get it, but at the same time I feel like in this, like now in this time frame, every single time I hear people talk like that, I'm like instantly like, "Oh no."
oh yeah,
No, 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 no. But Billy laughs it off, and he wants to talk about Strange Fruit. Why does she keep singing it? Because the song, it keeps getting her in trouble. And she looks at him and asks, "You ever seen a lynching?" 'Cause that's what the song is about. It's about human rights, and the government forgets that it's about human rights, and they just want me to shut the fuck up and sing all of me.
yeah,
And I don't want to do it. So then he says, "All right, well, let's go to where it all began, at the Cafe Society." So we scooch to 10 years earlier at the Cafe Society, which is a club, a jazz club, and Billy is singing on stage. She looks absolutely gorgeous as always, and they're talking about how the Cafe Society was this hot spot and, quote, the wrong kind of place for the right kind of people. So it was a jazz club
yeah,
in that in New York, I think, in the fucking was it 30s and 40s, right? So it's
yep,
fucking hopping. So Freddie brings up Jimmy Fletcher while she's talking to the interviewer, and Billy says, "Leave him alone. He didn't know what he was walking into." And Freddie says, "Yes, he did, soldier boy."
yep,
Like, goddamn, Freddie. Like,
yeah. And then this whole time, so they're talking over the flashback. So when she talks about Jimmy Soldier Boy, you see the officer coming into the club
right.
and
In
he
his
asks about like,
military uniform.
yeah, and then he goes, well, what about Officer, oh God, what is his name? Eden
Oh, and Slinger?
Anslinger. Anslinger. And or he asked about her manager and her
Right.
husband. And so you see them sitting at and they he's like, oh, you mean the crook? And
Yep.
yeah, so then
His name was Joe Glasser.
yeah, so you're already getting a feel of like for this time in Billy, she's being ruled by these men who are stealing from her and controlling her.
Right.
And at some point, this officer dude is going to become important, and he's just there to watch apparently for the night.
Yeah, he's just apparently there to watch it. But yeah, so Joe Glasser is her manager. They call him a crook. And you see him at the club, and he's sitting with her husband, whose name is James Monroe. And like, what struck me was the juxtaposition of how she looks when she's singing on stage, and then immediately going back to where they're sitting in the room and meeting. It's like two
Yeah.
different people,
Oh
two
yeah.
totally different people, way more than you expect for just 10 years. Like her happiness and everything looks crazy.
Yeah.
And then it shows after the show, they go into the dressing room, and the dressing room is fucking packed. Billy's in there, Monroe is in there, Glasser's in there, and this is where we meet Rosalind and Lester. And Rosalind is like her hairstylist, and Lester is part of the band. So Rosalind goes up to Billy while Billy is like getting undone from being in the show, and she tells her really quietly, "Orson Welles is outside. He needs to see you." And Billy says, "Tell him tomorrow because Monroe will be out of town."
Which I was like, oh, Orson Welles is your side piece?
Yeah,
What?
I was like, "Hello?" And
The
what, like,
Orson Welles?
what other reason would you not want Monroe to know? But then
Oh
as we
yeah.
get into the movie, I'm like, "Oh yeah, I wouldn't want Monroe to know anything either." So I
No.
got it afterwards. But it's so funny after she says this, Monroe just turns around and like loudly yells into the room as a whole, like, you got some friends from Baltimore here to see you. So it's like a distraction immediately from whatever
Yeah.
she was saying. So you see like the entrance to the dressing room and it's just full of people like crowding around trying to get in to see her. And there's Soldier Boy standing in the fucking doorway, creepy as shit, just staring and smiling into the room.
Yeah.
And like, don't get me wrong, the actor who plays him, he's absolutely gorgeous. He was in was it called Moonlight or whatever? He's absolutely gorgeous. But him just standing there in uniform staring through the doorway and not moving at all was like, sir.
Well, and it is very stalkerish because at this point we are made to believe that that's the night she met him. Or at least that's what I got out of it. That that's the night he showed up in her life.
Right.
So at this point you're just a creeper standing in
Yeah,
her doorway
as she's like getting
as she's getting
undressed.
undressed. And why is everyone pining for her autographs while she's getting undressed? Like, why does she have no personal
There's
boundary?
no
What is
boundaries.
happening? Which I
No
guess
boundaries with these
maybe,
people.
yeah, I get maybe that speaks to like the
The
amount of like
time.
how money was more important than her herself to her manager and her
Yes.
husband. So it was like, no, she doesn't get privacy. I need to make money. She needs to do autographs. I need to, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Or it could just be like, I mean, you're talking about like the 30s, right? So like you don't have as stringent as rules and boundaries for like celebrities that you do now.
Well,
Like,
no, but like a naked woman was a thing back then. Like,
yeah, and she wasn't naked at this
well,
point.
no, she
Just
had
she
her
wasn't.
unders on, but
Yeah.
like still,
Yeah.
that
It's fucking
was
weird.
that might as well have been nudity back then.
Yeah. Fucking weird. So
Yeah.
as he's just creepily staring, Monroe goes up and he's like, "She don't know you. Move." And then he ushers in a man and a woman who greet Billi and are like, "Oh, we love you so much." And they're from Baltimore. Billi is from Baltimore. She signs like the flyer from the show and she tells them where to go eat, where the husband needs to take his wife to get some good food, all of that. And Jimmy is still just creepily staring and
Yeah.
smiling in the fucking door
Just
until finally Monroe gets up and says, "Nah, bro," and just slams the door.
but he does not say nah, bro, which
No,
I
he
think
doesn't say
made
bro.
it funnier, but like
We're not going there. It's hilarious. He just closes it
yes.
on his
He's
face.
like
So
no. Bloup.
absolutely not.
Like
Absolutely not. So then we cut to this really beautiful old style house.
yeah.
It's just I mean, I wouldn't decorate a house that way. It's way too much, but it's definitely a 30s decorated house. And
Oh
there's
yeah.
this woman, she's standing in the dining room, this older woman. It's a huge fucking house, super fancy. Jimmy comes shambling in and he's like, "I'm so sorry. Sorry, mom." This is his mom now, apparently. And she's mad as hell. She doesn't
Yeah.
want to talk to him. He's trying to hug her and kiss her cheek. She's not fucking having it. And he tells her, "I was on a job interview," which, so not only are you a creep, but you're a liar.
Yeah.
And you're lying to your mother.
Yeah.
Hello. She's still not having it. She's like, "It
No.
is 10:30 on a fucking Sunday. What job is interviewing at 10:30
Yeah.
on a Sunday?"
She's
She
like, you're not
starts
even a
going
good
in.
liar, asshole.
Right?
Like,
Idiot. And she goes in on him. She's like, "You're living on your father's hard-earned trust, and you're supposed to be here for Sunday dinners. It's the only time that we have together because you've moved out. I know you were downtown with all the fucking floozies and the jazz people and all that, basically." And he's like, "Well, I was interviewing for a writing position with the Sun News, and I had to go to the editor's house after I interviewed and I got the job. So you should be happy," basically. She's still
yeah.
like, "Fuck no, you fucking idiot." So they sit down. She keeps going at him. She's telling him, "Your father's going to turn over in his fucking grave after everything he's accomplished. You ain't fooling anybody with that fucking uniform. Again, you're down with the fucking jazz musicians. You're in the club." Maid comes in, starts cleaning everything up. And the mom is still annoyed up until the point to where he tells her, "I met Billie Holiday." And then she's like, "Ah!"
You
met
met
Billie
Billie Holiday?
Holiday.
Yeah,
And she's like, oh, she is quite the lady. And Jimmy's like, I kind of heard the opposite. And I'm like, what the fuck, bro? You were just standing there, like,
right?
waiting to be graced with her presence. And now you're like, oh, I don't think she's very much of a lady.
Which
Oh,
made
whose
me
side are
feel
you
like,
on?
yeah, which made me feel like, I'm like, are you calling her a whore? And you're like stalking her? Like, so I was very like, ew,
The math
Jimmy.
isn't
At this
mathing.
point, I'm very anti Jimmy in the movie. I'm like,
Right. I
really
was like,
weirding me out, bro.
no, I don't
Like,
like this at all. And his
yeah,
mom is like, those are rumors. Anytime a black person does something right, they're always painted it wrong. And I was like, hell yeah, mom, that's
yep,
exactly right. You're 100%. So we cut back to the cafe society, and this time it's completely emptied. It's obviously like before a show. Everybody is in the front of the house. They're all milling around, doing their own thing. Got Monroe and Billy and Joe and not Joe, but Gloucester, whatever his name is, Rosalind, and there's a fucking bunch of dogs everywhere.
yep. So
So
Billy is a dog lover.
total dog lover. There's
Yep,
dogs throughout this whole fucking film. Um, she's reading a comic. She's feeding the dogs. Rosalind is behind her doing her hair. The brand is like, or at least Lester is playing along with somebody else, and then her manager is like doing business at the table. And Miss Freddie walks in, and he's got all of these gowns with him, and he's like, Vogue wants to interview me about how I dressed you, and Monroe is like, they come talk to me if they want to interview about her. And Freddie's like, well, they sent all these gowns, which immediately Billy's like, hell yeah, free gowns.
yeah. So like, I
And
want both of them.
right, like I want all of the free gowns. And Monroe is like, that's gonna cost me an arm and a leg, which immediately I was like, hold on, who are you?
Right?
Because at this point, all I know is that you're her husband. Who are you? And
Yeah.
immediately, Miss Freddie, who apparently understands me on a molecular level, says, shut the fuck up, Monroe. Thank you.
And
Get
then
him, please.
she goes, yeah, and tell them to go ahead and sit my husband's arm for that
Yeah,
dress
go
I
ahead.
want.
Give him an
Like,
arm. Give his arm up. So
yeah,
as this is happening, Lester is still playing with this other saxophonist, and Billy immediately says he ain't clicking. So they tell him, get the fuck
yeah,
out, basically. And I felt bad, kind of, because he just kind of shambled away. And then Monroe brings over a newspaper, and in the newspaper it has an ad for Billy singing at the club. He's bitching about it. He's like, this should be a half-page ad. You should be getting more money because of all the people that you're pulling in. And Rosalind, for I think the only time in the whole fucking film, agrees with Monroe and says, yeah. Glossner says, oh, I'm working on it. And Billy's immediately like, oh, he's working on it. And I'm like,
yeah,
God fucking damn it, damn it. So Rosalind takes the newspaper and she shows Billy another article, and it's about Harry Anslinger, who's the head of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics, and he is testifying at Congress. And Billy turns to Monroe and says, hey, your friend's in the paper. And Monroe's like, I don't know that man. That man ain't no friend of mine. And she was like, okay, sure, sure, but manager man, that's your friend too, right? And he ignores the question completely, brings over a set list and says, I cut strange fruit. Billy doesn't like that at all. She's like, no, I want to sing my fucking song. The club is advertising it. Like, I want to sing
yeah,
it. People want to hear it. And he's like, there's people in high places that don't want you to sing it. And Billy's immediately like, who the fuck are these people? Who doesn't want me to sing it? Because I'm going to fucking sing it.
yeah,
He looks at Monroe, which pisses Billy off. Because she's like, what the fuck are you looking at him for?
yeah,
I pay you. You're my manager. Why are you looking at Monroe? So he finally says, it's the government. The government doesn't want you to play it. She goes, oh, the government. Like your buddy as Anslinger, right?
yeah,
And Monroe's like, stop. She's like, no, no, I want to do the fucking song. And then he says something about Mirapole wrote it and he's a fucking commie, which I'm automatically like, God, every time somebody anywhere ever brings up commies and communism, I'm like, just scoot my brains out of my skull, please. I don't want to be in this conversation. And she keeps going, they're going on and on and on. But she's gonna sing it. Monroe doesn't want her to sing it. Lester's got her back. Lester's like, she's singing it, then we're fucking doing it. Freddie's
Yeah.
like, yeah, we'll fucking do it. And then Monroe immediately gets just livid and he says, look, bitch, we ain't going through this again. Yanks the paper away from her. And by the way that she reacts to it, it's very obvious that this is not anything out of the normal
Yeah.
at all. She kind of gives him this look like she's debating about how to go about this. Like, is she going to keep pushing it to get her way, or is she just going to say, all right, whatever, dude, and just do whatever they want? So apparently she chose option A. She asks if you ain't friends with Anslinger, then how come you sit with him? How come he like comes to the club and y'all sit and y'all fucking talk? Monroe tells her, I'm trying to protect you. Like,
Yeah.
trying to play this. And she's like, don't fucking lie to me, which sets him off again. He snatches the back of her head and is like getting really close to her. And at first I thought he was going to hit her. And then
Oh
Joe
yeah.
said, the manager's like, all right, we're just cutting it. It's cut. We're cutting it. He lets her go. And then Lester stands up and goes, fuck the feds and fuck Anslinger. And then just like, fuck all y'all. Just
Yeah.
dips out. I think he's my favorite. The whole movie. Him and Miss Freddie are my fucking favorite.
Yeah.
So then we're going into the DC Federal Bureau of Investigation office on April 3rd, 1947. Anslinger walks into the Senate chamber and he demands that they push the budget that's put forward through Congress. And they don't really, they're like, we just gave you shit last year. Like, they're arguing about this budget. And they're like, what are you even going to do with all of this? Like, what are you doing with the money? And he says essentially that drugs and black people are a contamination to our great American civilization, which I was like, hello.
Yep.
And they're like, yeah. They basically all go, duh, and say that's why we're helping you to begin with.
Yeah.
It's, and he keeps talking about it's the jazz music. We gotta stop Billie Holiday. We gotta stop that song. Her husband's in the bag, but she still won't stop. So the song is seen as like a starting gun for the civil rights music. So it's we've got him. We have to get Billy, and in order to do that, I need more money and I need more
Yeah.
resources. So they can't arrest her for singing. There's nothing to hold her on. So they're trying to get her for maybe inciting a riot, but that's a misdemeanor. You can't really hold anyone on the misdemeanor like that. Like,
Yeah.
she's not going to get anything. So then Anslinger is like, she's a fucking drug addict. We're the narcotics bureau. We're going after the drugs.
Yeah.
So then we see like this hotel or something, maybe an apartment. I don't know. They don't really specify where they're at, but it's Billy. It's late at night. It's Billy and Joe, the dope man, Joe Guy. Billy's getting ready to shoot up. Joe's already fucking slumped. He's
Yeah.
on the bed. He's totally slumped. And they do a close up of her veins, and her veins are shot. I
Yeah.
don't know how she's continuing to shoot up in that arm. There's no way you would still be able to do that. But she does. She figures it out and
I
immediately
was like,
slumps.
"Oh, they're doing the hard stuff. Okay.
Yeah, immediately slumps. And
Yeah.
while I was watching this, I was like, this reminds me of when I'm dreaming and I can't seem to move fast enough for whatever I'm trying to do in my dream. Like, if
Yeah.
she did a really good job of portraying this, because if you've ever watched like Intervention or seen anybody who's on especially heroin, it makes people so slow. Like, they just can't get their body to react the way that they're trying to get it to react. And that's why they kind of look, again, slumped. But that's exactly how it feels when I'm like having a nightmare and I'm trying to like get out of somewhere and my body is just like not.
Yeah.
So there's no way I would do that to myself intentionally. It sounds awful.
That shit scares the poo out of me.
I
Like, oh,
no.
I never wanna.
Mm-mm.
It's a nightmare situation. That stuff, and
And bitch, I'm allergic to morphine. I'm allergic to one of the best things that you can get, and I don't want any of it. I don't want
yeah,
any of it. No, thank you. And then At this point in time, they have these big ass needles. There's not hypodermic needles at this point in time. There's a big ass and the glass and everything. And
Yeah.
I was just like,
Which I did feel kind of dumb because I did not know heroin existed back then. I thought it was a newer thing. Like, so I was kind of like, oh shit, they full
no.
on, it's heroin. It's needle and heroin. Like,
Yeah, because they show her actually cooking it on like she's got a
yeah,
whole kit with a little. It's got an actual physical candle that
yeah.
she lights. It's a
I
whole
thought she was
setup.
gonna burn her hair at first because as soon as she shoots up, she kind of starts
Yeah,
slumping
she starts
and her
slipping.
hair
Yeah,
starts going towards the candle, and I was like, oh
yeah,
shit, she about to set herself on fire. But then she kind of like, dog starts barking, so she kind of sits up and
yeah,
starts to move around. But
yeah,
she's moving slower. She's like, where are
yeah.
we going? Like,
It's literally like a time stop, and it's
yeah,
so scary. And I like, how did they even get the needles back then? Like, I know how you get them now. Like, did they do the same thing? Just say it was for diabetes? Like, how did they?
bro, did
I
they
don't know.
even regulate it? Could
Right?
you
Was
just
it
walk into any place and be like, I need a needle, and they'd be like, here you
okay?
go.
Did they sell them at the drugstore?
I
Like the
know, like,
bodega have
well,
one? I
now
don't
we
know.
gotta Google,
I was Googling too much today, so that is one thing that
right?
I neglected, which is I'm assuming that the same people that were selling the tar were also selling the whole because they had a whole kit. I'm not like this is not this is a whole fucking kit that's set up
Yeah.
like in a little metal box. So there's no way that you're just grabbing random instruments.
Did
This
you know
is
they had needles back in Roman times?
yeah, they were made out of bone.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, they were
Uh,
made out of they had
this
needles
is.
back in fucking
I think I
for
worded my
forever.
question to be like more like interested in the history of needles and not the history of drug use. You know. Mm, drugs. Mm, I don't know. Nothing good's
Whatever.
popping up. Yeah.
Not important. Um and
If
then it kind
anybody
of
knows out there, please comment. How did druggies do it back in the day?
our FBI agents are like, the fuck are they getting into now? So then we kind of see like this weird back and forth. So it shows her in a very small bathroom again with her kit, and she's kind of thinking back on him scratching the song off, and she's singing with Louis Armstrong. She's recording a V disc for the military. Um, she looks mad as hell singing Solitude to Monroe at one point. She's got her whole kit set up in this little tiny bathroom. She's slumped, and then it shows Jimmy in the audience. So you're
Yeah.
kind of getting like right now, she's totally slumped and strung out, but she's thinking back to all of these different shows and stuff that she's done. Then we again see her backstage at some point after a show. Everybody's there, and she's mixing up her tar, and Jimmy walks in with flowers.
Yeah.
How'd he get back there again? I don't fucking know. But Freddie calls him the pretty little motherfucker who be writing all the time.
Yeah.
But she says, I don't want to see him. I want to see him. And Freddie tells him, you better not be one of the fucking gossip mags, basically. She puts out her candle. She takes the flowers from him. She starts poking fun at him because he's there all the time. He's usually wearing his uniform. He's not wearing it right now. And she starts talking to him about how it's really quiet, like after a show backstage. She doesn't like the quiet. But she knows why Jimmy's there. Fucking duh.
Yeah.
So she starts showing him she's learning some like ballroom dance moves, and she asks him, "You got a girl?" And he's like, "No." And of course he doesn't because he's fucking in love with Billi.
Yeah.
Um, and he asks her if her boyfriend brings her that stuff. And she's like, "It takes the edge off. What do you want? I'm not gonna hide it. It is what it is." And then he asks her why she doesn't sing Strange Fruit. and she tells him, I gotta be pretty high to sing that song. And she doesn't really think people care about it that much.
Yeah.
And then she says, one day I'm gonna go to rehab like Judy Garland. And then they start flirting. Boy, are they fucking flirting hard. She
Oh
signs a
yeah.
record for him, talking about his favorite club, his favorite song of hers, all of that shit. And another day he heads to the club again to see her, but there's a sign on the advertisement that says the performance is canceled due to a death in the family. So he shows up at the church. How the fuck did he know which church? I don't fucking know, but he found it, and he goes to give his condolences, thinking it's like a human life. It's not. It's one of
It's
the
a
fucking
dog.
dogs.
Her dog
That
died.
they have the whole ass funeral in this big ass
Oh,
church.
and
She's
Roz is sobbing.
Everyone is sobbing,
Oh
fucking
my goodness.
losing it. And Rosalind is so mad. She tells Billy it's her fault because you let him eat off your damn plate and he choked, which is true. Don't let dogs eat
Yep.
fucking table food. Stop doing that shit. And we scooch on back to the New York interview from the beginning. He asked her about Tallulah, says that they were a little bit tight. You know,
Yep.
they were really close friends, which immediately pisses Freddie off. This is supposed to be about her career, and you're asking her all this stupid fucking bullshit. He tells him, cut the tape. You got one more smart ass question, and then that's it.
Yeah.
Hit the tape back on. Then it does show Billy and Tallulah, and they're going into this very fancy apartment building. Apparently, some magazine wants to talk to Tallulah about Billy, and Billy's like, yeah, go for it. Let's head upstairs. Okay? They go up to the elevator. There's a black elevator operator, and he says, Billy can't use this elevator. She has to go to the service elevator. She doesn't like that. She tries to push past him. He fights her back. He is pleading with her, please don't do this here. Like,
Yeah.
please don't do this right here, right now. And she gets upset and she says, no matter what I do, it doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter how big I make it. I'm just a black lady. Tallulah tries to help. The only way Tallulah knows how as a white lady in the late 30s and says, that's okay. I will also take the service elevator with you.
Yeah.
Which Billy is like, huh, no. And Billy just leaves. She's like,
Yeah.
I'm not fucking dealing with this.
Yeah.
So,
And that scene was so hard to watch because
yeah,
her and the elevator man were having to have this moment of like, he is seeing a hero. This is
right,
Beyonce,
right.
okay? And you're having to look at Beyonce and say, hey, fucking racism, bro, but I'll be fired. And they had that moment of when she's in close, like she starts hitting him and trying to push
Yeah,
past,
she really trying
and
to get in
he
there.
has to hold her and go. He said it in nicer words, but he was pretty much like, "You need to remember you're in the South right now. Don't get uppity." Like, and they're having to
Yeah,
have that moment of like, you have a song about lynching, okay? You keep pushing
right.
this, you're gonna be that song. Stop it. And
Yeah.
so
And
then she
I
runs
please
out
don't get
and
me fired.
yeah, it's not
If
even
for
don't get
you
me fired. Like you're
it's
gonna get yourself killed, bro.
yeah,
You gotta stop.
right.
And they both have to have that moment of like, what is our fucking lives right now? Like that of just being second class and
Yeah,
having to be like, you're going to die if you try to ride a fucking elevator.
right.
Even though you're rich and famous,
Doesn't matter.
you are not a
Doesn't matter.
citizen. Like,
Yeah.
and that was a really hard scene. That was tough.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Because you
especially for
felt it from
us,
both of them for sure.
yeah, and especially I think for us sometimes those smaller moments that
Yeah,
aren't as big, that aren't as like visually and emotionally charged immediately, those smaller moments of like black people being denied something that is on it, and honestly it's so silly. It is so
yeah,
fucking silly. It doesn't make any logical sense. Those moments sometimes can hit a lot harder than like the big emotional disastrous things, because it's like, Jesus fucking Christ, you can't even ride a goddamn elevator.
yeah,
It's a metal fucking box. If you die in an elevator, you die. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
make any logical sense. It's very
No.
very frustrating. Um, then we're in the Oral Theater in Philly, May 27th, 1947. Everybody's waiting on her. Like the whole club is packed, and at the back of the club is just a line of police officers against the bar.
Yep.
She comes out. She's in this beautiful white dress. Everyone is standing ovation for her to come out. Somebody in the audience asks for strange fruit. So she just says, all right, fuck it, and starts singing strange fruit.
She doesn't get that first line out, bro. She
No,
gets like
before
the first few
manager,
words, and the cops move in, and her bandmates start dragging her away.
yep,
And she's like, "Let me sing it!" Like she's
yep,
screaming at them, and they're like,
mayhem.
"Get your ass out of here!"
Yeah,
Like,
it's total mayhem.
oh
Lester
yeah,
picks her up, literally picks her up and is dragging her off the stage. They get to the back alley, they get into a car, and Lester drives her away. It's
yep,
total mayhem as soon as that happens. And we're back in the apartment, and Joe, the dope man, is telling her, "You're not fucking safe here. Like this is fucking too much." And all she can talk about is she wants some fucking ice cream. They're both fucking slogged off their asses. She's
yeah,
asking him, "Go down the store, give me some chocolate ice cream." He stands up, acts like he's gonna do it, and he walks to like a couch in the living room and he just lays down and passes out. And
yeah,
she's like, all right, fuck it. She's in like a negligee, like she's in nothing basically, and she's like, I'm gonna go get it myself. She puts on Joe's coat, slips on some heels, and he's laughing at her because he's like, that's my fucking coat. And she's like, it's fine, you can't, I'm fine. Opens the door, and it's fucking Jimmy with policemen, and he's holding a badge. And I was immediately like, I fucking called it. I knew it. I knew there was something wrong with you. You were either going to try to kill her, some kind of fucking serial killer, fucking crazy Selena vibes, or you were fucking fed
yeah. I was like, "You motherfucker, you fucker, you you're a fucking fed." Oh my god,
this
I
whole
was
fucking
so like,
time. She slams the door in his face. She turns around, tries to run. She starts yelling at Joe. She's like, Joe, we got get there. The fucking feds are here. Da, da, da. James catches her, and she throws a folded piece of paper that was in the coat pocket at him. He picks it up and looks at it, and there's residue on it. He can already tell. She starts just fucking ripping him a new one. You're pretending to be your soldier. I almost kissed your ugly ass. And he just kind of takes it. He just kind of sits there and lets her yell and scream at him. And he's like, there's a policewoman. She's on her way and she'll search you. And she's like, fuck that. I don't give a shit. She just fucking gets naked, total naked, right in
"Yep,
front of him and everybody, in front of God and everybody. Just, all right, look, there
yeah,
ain't shit on me now. Like, the fuck are you gonna do about it?
yeah,
And then we see the courthouse, which is also in Philly. There's a huge crowd when she gets out in front of the courthouse. Somebody is telling her you should be ashamed of yourself. You're supposed to be setting an example like Ella Fitzgerald or Marian Anderson. Like, you are not doing the right thing for your people, basically. And she says to him that black people are harder on her than white people are,
yeah,
that she needs help. She doesn't need jail time. She doesn't need all of this fucking mess, right? Like she
yeah,
needs somebody to help her. So we get into the courtroom, and before they get into there, Anslinger tells Jimmy, congratulations, like, good job. You
yeah,
got her. We're going to take her down. We're going to take the whole thing down. It's perfect. But Jimmy has to testify. Or no, I'm sorry. That's the next one. So the judge is asking her for the source. Like, who's your supplier? I
yeah,
want to know the plug. I want to know his plug. I want to know everybody. And Billy is like, no, just send me to the hospital. Let's get this over with.
yeah.
Let's go. I'll do it. I'll do the fucking hospital, but I'm not telling you shit. And ain't nobody in that courtroom happy about that answer
No,
at all.
nope,
So she's sentenced to 1 year and 1 day in jail. When apparently her manager had assured her that she would just get sent to the hospital. But that's
yeah.
all
So then
she
she's
just had
like,
to
"You
show up.
lied. Y'all set me up. This
Right.
is bullshit."
Yep.
Like freaking out all the way there. And
Yep.
then you get a montage of her pretty much her year in prison.
Right. Yeah,
Wow.
you ain't Billie Holiday in here.
Yeah, jumping in between Jimmy, the cop guy, getting
Mm-hmm.
congratulated, but going back to his
Mm-hmm.
tiny apartment. And I hated this part because I really felt like they were trying to compare her detoxing and being in prison to his guilt of
Right.
putting her there. And I was kind of like,
Shut the
is
fuck
that
up.
really what we're trying to compare as he's in his fancy sweater? Because this is also a rich boy, okay?
He's a
Who
trust fund baby. He's a trust
yeah,
fund baby.
he's a trust fund baby who's joined the FBI and took her down. And now we're trying, I don't know. I just didn't like how. And it was also
But
at a point in the movie where it was like, sure, they had that one moment of flirting, but other than that, he's just been the creepy guy writing her letters.
right.
And in
Why do
this
I care
moment,
about fucking
they're
Jimmy?
trying, it was like a weird kind of like, is it love? Do they
Yeah.
miss each other? Is he just guilty? Like, they're both struggling. And I was like, are they though? I don't think he's struggling.
Yeah, and
Like,
it's like so it shows him getting congratulated and commended, and then it shows him entering this small office of, and it's only black federal agents in this
hmm
office. So one of his coworkers also says congratulations and says something about he's leading the charge into Harlem because no white person can do it because it's fucking Harlem,
yeah,
and he's paving the way for them all, which is like I hate that argument when somebody joins anybody joins any kind of cop or cop adjacent system at all. Like, oh, you're paving the way for the rest. Stop it. And Mama is pissed. His mama is not
yeah.
happy about his involvement in this. She's like, you lied to me, you lied to Billy, you don't have to work at all, and here you are, you're putting our people in fucking jail. You've got all these opportunities that other black people don't, and you've decided that this is the right way to
Oh,
do
yeah.
this. This is
She's
the
pretty
right thing for you to
much
do.
calling him a race traitor. Like,
Yeah, she's like,
mm,
you're why? What's the
yeah,
fucking point in
what are
doing
you
all of
doing?
this? And he's
Yeah,
like, I'm one of the first black federal agents. Like, he's fully buying into the fact that he's paving the way, and he's like, I want to solve the problem
well,
in
yeah,
Harlem.
he
And
does seem to have a passion for ending drugs because he does believe drugs are killing the black community. So it is kind of like fair enough. I mean, they were put there for a
right,
reason. So I do
but
get it, but it is this kind of argument of like, can you really help from the inside as the inside is specifically built to not help, you know?
well, not only built to not help, but what we know now about the
Yeah,
entirety of the war on drugs, even went back then in the 30s and the fucking 20s and everything, is it was never about the actual
no,
drugs. It was just about the people that they pumped drugs into the communities and then went in afterwards and were like, oh, we got to solve this problem. Like, it's
yeah,
never been about the fucking drugs. And his mom is like, they're using you. It's not about the fucking drugs. It's about the song. She won't sing it. Who is going to sing it for us? That
yeah,
song is for us. So you are fucking up. So yeah, it shows Billy going through withdrawals in jail with absolutely no help at all. He fucking Jimmy is going back to his apartment. He can't get the fucking door open. I guess it's supposed to show how he's like living only off of his federal agent wage or something. It's not that small, but it's kind of rinky. Um he's listening to her music the whole fucking time that she's
yeah,
in jail. He's got her flyers up all. It's total serial killer vibes. Like it's total
yeah,
fucking parasocial relationship vibes. It's fucking swarm. It's weird as shit. So we see the seasons changer, and she tells someone in the prison she's never gonna get married again. So, assuming that she's divorced
yeah.
Monroe,
Monroe didn't
um,
last through prison, apparently.
mm-mm. And Jimmy goes and he meets Freddie at a diner, which I didn't understand. I'm like, why are y'all meeting up? Like this is not
Yeah,
there's no friendship here. There's no love between these two people, especially well, at least from Freddie's side, there's no love. Why are
yeah,
y'all doing that? So, but Freddie's asking him like, why the fuck did you do it? And again, he says, my dad said that drugs would be the death of black people. That I'm just trying to solve the problem. And Freddie says, well, for you being a federal agent, you sure are fucking stupid. Like,
yeah,
thank you. And Freddie starts going into a little bit of the background of Billy's life. He tells her 10 years old, she was raped. She's missing something inside of her. There's a hole, and the
yeah,
only thing that'll fill it is the dope, right? She was treated badly. She used to steal these little trinkets and stuff. She looks amazing. She looks like $1 million. She feels like nothing. The dope takes the edge off, it eases it a little bit, and then it comes back like a hammer. She's got no body. All she's got is her singing, and she gives that singing to other people. And the only person that she's hurting is herself.
Yeah.
So again, why are you fucking doing this, right?
Yeah.
And then we see Jimmy go into the white federal agent's offices, which are totally different than his office. The secretary even looks like him, like, what the fuck are you doing up here?
Oh
Like
yeah.
everybody's staring at him. But he goes in to have a meeting with Anslinger about Billi. He's like, we got some shit on her. And Jimmy's like, or he's like, we don't have anything on her. And Jimmy's like, she's in fucking jail.
Yeah,
Duh,
how
you
would
don't have
you?
any,
She's in jail.
right? And he asks, why this song? Why is the song crawled up your ass like this? And Anslinger says that Hoover is saying that it's un-American, that the lyrics are provoking in the totally wrong way. And then he tells Jimmy, he's like, you're a good liar. Go and tell Billi that you're sorry. She's gonna believe you. She's a sucker for men. Which was just like,
Yeah.
ugh.
It was gross.
Ugh. And then he says she's never getting her cabaret license back, which means that she could never sing in New York because you can't, unless you have a cabaret license, you can't sing in New York with somewhere that's selling liquor, essentially. So, like, yeah, we just won't give her her thing back. We'll just put a stop to the whole thing. So Jimmy's like, all right. And he goes to talk to Billi in jail. But what he tells Billi is don't fucking trust anyone. They want me to take you down again. They're gonna have you like followed, like they're putting me on the case. I'm not gonna do that, but you need to be careful. And of course, she's super suspicious. And now he wants to do the right thing,
Yeah.
which tries to flirt with her a little bit. She basically tells him, fuck off. Like, I don't want to
Yeah.
fucking talk with you. Then we see March 16th, 1948, at a train station. Rosalind, Lester, and some random white man with her dog are there to meet her. And Rosalind says, it's your new manager. And she's immediately suspicious. Like, the fuck are you gonna do for me? Like, my last manager was shit. The fuck are you gonna do? And he tells her, you are gonna headline at Carnegie Hall. Which she's
Yeah.
immediately like, ain't nobody coming to see me at Carnegie Hall. I've seen the papers. I know what they're saying about me. Ain't nobody gonna come see me sing there. And he tells her, actually, tickets are selling pretty good. You're already booked, so you're gonna fucking do it. They try to get her to stay at Lester's house to help keep her clean, but she's like, no, 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 I beat it. I beat it. I'm fine. Everything
Yeah.
is fine, guys. They don't fucking believe her. But she agrees to do the Carnegie Hall show, and then she looks over, and there's fucking Jimmy in the fucking train station sitting next to some white dude. He waves at
Yeah.
her, and they all just skedaddle out of there. But the white guy makes a comment, and he thinks, and I'm assuming Anslinger thinks, that whatever Billi said to her worked. He's basically saying, all right, you got this in the bag now. Now you're going to be able to take her down because she does trust you. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, God, I hate that.
Yeah.
A couple months later, you see her in this new apartment. It's huge. She's got a maid, she's got a housekeeper, she's got all this stuff. She's lifting weights as she's walking through the hall, and she's practicing singing. She's collaborating with a piano player and a songwriter. And Lester is for some reason next to the piano jumping rope. I I don't what are you doing, bro? Why the
Yeah.
fuck are you jumping rope in the piano room? What is happening? And she has this big plan. She wants to integrate the audience at the show. So she doesn't want it to be segregated. She wants black people and white people to be singing together. And then for some reason she just says, I'm going to church. And she goes to church and prays.
Yeah. She's like,
Maybe
you got that pin
addict.
suit for me? And
Yeah,
the maid's like, gotcha.
I
And
gotcha.
then she's like, I gotta go pray now, guys.
Yeah, just bye in the middle of fucking
Yeah.
songwriting. Whatever. So we see her at Carnegie Hall. We see a lot of old footage of like crowds. I'm assuming they pulled from, I don't know if they pulled from her actual performance or just a random performance in New York, but the backstage is totally full of flowers. She's getting completely made up. It's a completely packed house. Like there is standing room only at
Mm-hmm.
this point. She's in this beautiful dress, but then she's got these super long white gloves on that go like all the way, so you can't see her track marks at all.
Yeah.
Um, and when she steps out, she's almost like timid when she steps on stage. Like she's not sure how this is all going to go, but as soon as she steps foot out there, everybody's out of their seats
Yeah.
applauding, everybody except for the front row, which happens to also have Anslinger with his wife. And then Jimmy's somewhere in the crowd too. Like she can't catch a fucking break. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess they had to buy tickets, so more ticket sales, but Jesus fucking Christ, guys. Like, can we
Yeah.
give her
Let
one
it
fucking
go.
night? Um, she makes a bunch of jokes when she's on stage about being black and about being in jail. Someone yells out for strange fruit again, and she's like, "Sorry, I can't do it." So she sings "Ain't Nobody's Business." And this song, it didn't hit me at first, but I had to watch this twice in order to get all of the notes. Um, and at the second time I was watching it, I listened to what the lyrics were actually saying. And this song is about how she's going to do what she wants to do regardless of anybody else, which
Yeah.
sounds great until the song starts talking about if she wants to give her man all of her money because he ain't got none, then she's going to do it. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, no, please don't do that. And it also says something about how she'd rather be hit than have her man leave her. And she wouldn't call the cops if her papa hits her. And I was like,
Yeah.
yikes. And the crowd is absolutely feeling it. Like they are absolutely loving her singing the song, which is like, but again, I mean, there's so many songs even now that come out that we totally vibe to until we listen to the lyrics and we're like, oh no, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. No, thank you. Um, and it does show her backstage. She's talking to her manager after the show, and he tells her, I can't get your cabaret card back. Like, we have three different lawyers on this thing. I can't fucking get it back, but it's okay. We'll work something out. Right?
Yeah.
She's pissed. And he accuses her of being high. And as soon as he says that, as soon as it comes out of his mouth, she grabs a fucking bottle and just chucks it at his head.
Yep.
And then she sits down and she's like, of course I'm high. Of course
Yeah.
I
I
am.
had to
I
perform.
I needed
Like,
this to go well. There's feds all in the front row. Fucking Jimmy's here and shit. Like I basically like I couldn't do it without it.
yeah.
Um, and then we see her at another club, right? At some point later. It's another club in New York. Lester is bringing her. Um, when they walk in, we see that the federal coworker is there. The I don't remember which one it was, but one of the feds is there, and Rosalind and Freddie are there, and they tell her basically, get the fuck up there and sing. And she's
Yeah.
like, I can't fucking sing. I don't have a cabaret card. I'm gonna get fucking arrested. And then Lester tells her, no, that man over there, John Levy, who owns the club, he's got the hookups, right? He can make this okay so you can sing in New York again. The whole band is up there. She greets all of them. She's like, what the fuck are y'all doing? And Lester tells her it'll be fine as long as you quote unquote handle Levy. And I was like,
Yeah.
Lester, please, like, please don't do this. So she goes up to Levy, and he takes her back into the green room, and he's telling her, don't worry about it. I'll handle it. I'll do it for you. You got three curtain calls at the Carnegie. It's all going to be good. And then he starts pushing up on her. And he's like, oh, we're going to make a swell team. And she
Yeah.
tells him, I decide when it's time to team up like that. But her body language when he does that is very much not against it. Again, this is not
Yeah.
anything new to her at all. She very much looks like a broken woman, essentially. But she does reveal that she did get divorced from Monroe. She tells him, I'm here to sing and I'm going to make you some money. And he says, and she starts heading up to the stage. And he says, all right, make me some money then. And then slaps the shit out of her ass. And she doesn't
Yep.
react to it at all. And I was like, God fucking,
There it is. I was like, and here's the new man. And
yep.
then while she's singing, we get some nice scenes of her and him in the dressing room going at it.
Yeah, so she comes out to total applause. she's been playing at this point in places that don't need a cabaret card. So outside of New York City, Philly, Boston, those types of places. The whole time she's having this set, she's given Levy the eyes. And I'm like, God, no, he's
Yep.
not even that fucking attractive at all. Please do not. Please do not. But she does. And they get it on in the green room after the show. And I put in here twice. He ain't even that cute because he's
No.
not. I'm sorry. He's not
Nope.
worth all of that. And we see Jimmy back in his office again. He's listening to some tapes recorded from I don't know where. But the coworker that was at the show, he has a trumpet now. And apparently he thinks he's gonna be a fucking he's gonna be the next Louis Armstrong or something. Like ridiculous. And they start talking about how they are specifically down in the basement trying to set black people up. And it seems like the coworker is now starting to feel like, oh,
Yeah. This feels
mm,
wrong.
yeah, maybe we aren't supposed, maybe we shouldn't be doing this. So,
Yeah.
cut to 3 months later, and Billy and Rosalind are in this really fancy restaurant and they're waiting to be seated. She got the fucking dog with her in the restaurant. And Rosalind is like trying to talk to the host in Italian about what liquor they have, and he is totally ignoring her. He's pretending she's not talking
Oh
at
yeah.
all.
He looks so disgusted.
Yeah, he looks
And I'm
very
like, I don't know. Her
annoyed.
Italian sounds pretty good, so I think you're just looking at her like that because she's a black woman speaking to you.
Right. I could tell it was Italian. So
Yeah.
like that's already an amazing job. Good job. But they start talking about how Levy owes them money. He's been shorting them from their take. And the thing to be aware of is if you're shorting Billy, you're shorting the whole band.
Yeah.
And in turn, shorting her hairdresser, Rosalind, and her designer, Miss Freddie. So like everybody's getting fucking short, right?
Yeah.
And who walks in? Levy comes up and he's like, I'm so sorry. I got this other thing to do. I'm gonna miss dinner, which is like, fuck. Hands her an envelope for cash, but it's shorted again. And she even yells out to him, like, you fucking shorted us again. But she's not angry enough for me that
No.
she's
She's
being
just like,
shorted.
"Where's my money?" But like
Yeah.
he just keeps walking and
He
she's
just
like,
keeps fucking walking.
"Oh well."
Right.
And
And then
then
down the steps.
she
Come.
sees a guy and she's like, "Who's that guy?" And
Yeah.
Roz is like, "Oh, that's some business dude. You want nothing to do with him," which made her immediately go, "But don't I?"
Right. So
And
Louis McKay walks down right after fucking other dude leaves, and Rosalind says they say he's a businessman, but he's just a boxer and a pimp. He's fucking trouble. Don't do it. And he immediately invites Billy to dinner, but makes it clear that it's only Billy. It's not Rosalind. And this fucking pisses me off because
I
Billy's immediately like, "You didn't want to have dinner with us anyway. Just
right,
take
I
the
was
dog.
like, "Dang, Billy
Just take
fucked
the
up,
dog."
bro."
But this is the first time that we're seeing evidence of Billy like pushing her people away,
Yeah.
especially in regards to a man. So she starts slowly inching away from everybody that loves her. And then we see the feds have got Tallulah. And they're asking her, Anslinger's asking her all these questions. He's trying to get her to admit that they have a sexual relationship. Keeps saying, well, Billy, we know that she likes to know her female friends intimately, so you can tell us, you know, tell us what's
Yeah.
going on. And Tallulah looks him dead in the eyes and says, I am unaware of any drug use by Miss Holiday. And I was like, that's a real fucking friend right
Yeah.
there. I don't
She's
know what the
ride or
fuck
die.
you're talking about.
Tallulah's ride or die.
A
And they're
hundred
showing
percent.
scenes as Tallulah's being interviewed. They're kind of showing flashbacks of like her and Billy walking through a park together and they
I don't think
run.
no, this is after. This is after. So they're walking in a park with a bunch of Billy's dogs and Tallulah is telling her about how she got interviewed by the FBI. And Billy's like, I'm so sorry that they're doing that. Like, whatever you need to
Oh,
do,
yeah.
do what you need to do. And she's trying to tell her, like, hey, yo, everyone is fucking using you. Like, you keep hopping man to man. They're shortchanging you. You got the FBI on your back. Your FBI is now interviewing me. Like, everyone's fucking using you. And Billy's like, you don't fucking get it, white girl, basically. And who says I'm not using them too? Which is like, I
You're
get
not.
it. a little bit, but they're using you way more than you could ever use them.
Yeah.
And then who fucking shows up? Goddamn McKay with some little white lady. And
Yep.
he tells Billy, he says, let's ditch the snow bunnies and get into some black shit. And I was just like, Jesus fucking. It doesn't take him up on it. She just laughs him off. And they continue on their way walking the fucking dogs.
Yeah.
Then we get some like black and white shots of them playing in different random clubs and all of that. And then we get a shot of Billy outside. She's like standing in a doorway outside and it's fucking pissing rain. She's got her fucking dog. She's telling her dog about how Levy hasn't been paying her and like uh, she can't keep doing this shit. She gets to a pay phone and she calls Joe the dope man. She's telling him she's like I need something. Come on, let's go get high. And he's like, "No, you don't need a little taste. That's not what this is.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to beat this together. I thought we were doing this together. We were gonna go to a clinic. We like, let's do it. If we're gonna do it, let's fucking do it. But I'm not gonna be a party to this. And she instantly gets angry and she's like, no, you don't understand. I'm in a situation. Fuck that clinic. I I stole the money that I was owed. And it's not his money. I didn't steal his money. I stole my money. That was my money that he didn't pay me. Eventually she just hangs up on him.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go find what I want. I don't give a shit. Now at this point, she's walking down the New York street. She's in like this really beautiful dress. She's in heels. She's got the dog. She's got an umbrella. And then the next time we see her, she no dress at all. I don't know if she has shoes on or not. She's barely got her jacket hanging on her. I don't know where the fuck her dog went. Where's her umbrella? We don't know. She looks totally strung out. And she ends up on Rosalind's stoop. She just fucking lays down. I don't
Yeah.
know how long she was laying there until Rosalind comes out and is like, God fucking damn it, and picks her up, takes her inside. Well, okay, listen, if you're gonna do something like this, please don't be fucking stupid about it because this idiot decides that the best thing to do after stealing from Levy is to show back up at the club the next night ready to fucking sing.
Yeah.
What the fuck? So
Where he proceeds
to
to
beat
beat
the
her
ever
ass.
living shit out of her.
Yep.
Just beats the shit out of her. She ends up hitting him with a chair, but he kicks her ribs in. Like he's yelling at Rosalind, like, don't you fucking do anything. Like finally Rosalind is able to get her up off of the floor and she's trying to still lunge after him where he's walked off the door. And Rosalind, this was so heartbreaking. Rosalind like
Yeah.
lays on top of her legs and is just saying, Billy, please stop. Please stop, Billy. Please stop doing all of this. It was gut wrenching
Yeah.
to see her friend like literally physically keeping her from
Making it
continuing.
worse.
Right.
Yeah.
She keeps singing. They end up wrapping up her ribs. She gets some more dope so she can go on and sing, but it's a totally different Billy. She's
Yeah.
not smiling. She's not happy to be there at all. She's very subdued. And there's fucking Jimmy again
Fucking
watching
Jimmy.
her in the club. And then it shows a shot of Levy, and I'm pretty sure he was sitting with Jimmy's white fed coworker.
Yes, he was.
Pretty sure that's who that was.
Yep.
God damn it. So then she goes to Hollywood, right? They're showing a bunch of you're hearing a bunch of news outlets and all they're talking about is her drug use. They're saying she's a victim of narcotic agents and dope peddlers, that she's getting harassed and all of this stuff. But Billy and Levy, they end up in a really nice hotel room. It's really beautiful hotel room. He's doing some paperwork, she's like laying on the bed chilling out, and Levy tells her that some people were saying, I just heard it, that we have a very unhealthy thing happening here. And she kind of laughs and she's like, why? Because I punched you in the lobby? And I was like, oh my God. And she goes, yeah, you're going to learn to pay me on time. And I'm like, he's still not.
Yeah.
Hello.
Right? What are you doing? What?
But she goes on to talk about how she hasn't used in almost 2 months. She seems really, really proud of herself, and he kind of plays it off like he's proud of her too. He asked her about marriage, and she's like, what the fuck? You're still married. So how does that work? And I
Yeah.
don't want to get married. I think we got a pretty good thing going. So why should we change anything? And he's like, oh, I'm gonna get a divorce. It's fine. And I'm gonna get a divorce. Okay, shut the fuck up. Um, and he says, oh, I got a gift that's gonna change your mind, which excites her. Which I would
Yeah.
also be like, hey, gift, like, but also like, no. She jumps up, she follows him through the room. He goes to this little box, looks like a jewelry box, not a ring, but like maybe a bracelet or something. He brings her in close as he's giving her the box, but as he's doing that, his other hand is down near her robe and he's trying to fucking slip a bottle with white powder into her goddamn robe pocket.
I was like, you fucking dirtbag.
Like, are
You
you fucking
dirtbag.
kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? And
Yep.
she
And
immediately
then the
notices,
cops
and
bust
well,
in.
she immediately notices, and she starts freaking out. She's like, I don't fucking want this. I've been clean
Yeah.
for 2 months. I don't want it. So it's in her hand, but she's yelling about how she doesn't want it. Elevator dings, the doors opens, and there's fucking Jimmy.
He set her up.
Fucking
That
Jimmy.
fucker set her up. Again, Jimmy worked with the husband, fucking set her up.
Well, we don't
And
know if
I was
Jimmy
like,
actually worked with the husband or if he was just
well,
he's still
either
assigned
way,
to the case. So we
he's,
saw the white coworker working with the husband, but I don't
yeah.
know if Jimmy. To be fair, they may have just said, "Oh, we're doing it now," and he's like, he could have fucking
Okay.
warned her. You're at her.
Yeah.
You're
He didn't
everywhere.
even try.
You're literally everywhere that she is, and you couldn't fucking give anybody a heads up.
Yeah, definitely. Like, get serious
Well,
right now.
that's her second arrest. She gets arrested for opium. We go to the courtroom, and this is where Jimmy is testifying. And he's telling the lawyer that her kit was in the garbage, which is weird because it would usually be like close by to where you're using the drugs. And again,
Yeah.
these look like actual like made kits. Like these are not a random spoon you found from a 7-Eleven and a lighter. These are like full metal boxes basically.
Yeah.
So it is weird that that would be in the garbage can. And he's like, yeah, she was holding the opium, but, and then he starts like stuttering, like he can't, it's
Well,
like
because
he,
the other lawyer's like, I'm sorry, are you saying we set her up? And he was
right.
like,
And he is fucking
"Uh,"
fumbling. He's
he's like,
fumbling.
I mean, I
I,
didn't
I, I,
say
I.
that, but like, you said that. And
Yeah. And Levy is in the audience while this is happening, and his face is just pure like,
yeah,
fuck,
like, fuck me, dude.
fuck.
Like,
So they have to let Billy go. They can't, your Fed agent that is on this case is now being like, like you can't convict her on that. So she gets out of the courtroom and she's telling the press, she's like, I was fucking framed. And then she's like, I'm going on a tour of America. Come see me. I'm going everywhere. We're doing the whole
yeah.
fucking thing. And as this is happening, Jimmy is getting reamed by Anslinger. He's literally
Oh,
making fun of him, stuttering up on the stage. Oh my God.
yeah.
Essentially all this work that we fucking did, all this money, it's down the drain because you couldn't testify the right way. So
Oh, yeah.
now you're gonna
I
get
thought
your
he was
ass.
gonna get fired, but he
I
was
did
like,
too.
you're desk duty, son. Desk
Well,
duty.
no, he tells him you're gonna get your ass in a little car and you're gonna follow her around America and you're gonna get
Yeah.
all the fucking dirt that you can. So then we see them going on tour. It's a bus full of everyone, and then Jimmy in a car follow. He's not even like make. It's totally obvious.
Oh, yeah.
He's like 10 feet away,
He's
following down
part
this
of the
dusty
fucking
ass
tour.
road. Right, he's just
Like,
part of the tour. Now, on the bus though, bus is a good time. They're all joking. They're all practicing. They go down these old ass dirt roads. She's on the cover of Ebony magazine, and it says, "I'm cured for good now." Like they start playing all these clubs and it's totally different from all the other clubs. Like it's a party. Each and
yeah.
every one of her shows is a total fucking racket. It's total party. She's crowd surfing. All the clubs are selling out. Like it's a good time. So they, after a show one night, they're in um, I'm assuming it's like an apartment that they've rented. It's not like a hotel room. It's like a full like a full fucking apartment. There's like a little bar. They're all gathered around. They're all like playing cards. She's counting the money.
Yeah. Go on, buddy.
She's counting the money and they're talking about how they're dividing it up. And nobody's really happy about how it's being divided up because the clubs are not paying them what they agreed to,
Yeah.
right? And then here comes fucking Jimmy. Nobody's happy about it. Nobody wants him there except Billi. And she's like, it's fine, leave him alone, you know? And Freddie says, a hard head makes a soft ass. You ain't learned your lesson yet. And I was like, somebody needs to get on her ass. So invites her in, and then Lester is like, look, I don't give a shit. I need to be paid. We need to be paid. So Billy's
Yeah.
like, no, 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 it's okay. We'll make it up next month. You know how it goes. Da, 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 da. They ask him if he's still a fucking Fed, and he says, it's complicated. It's not complicated. You literally are.
Yeah. You are.
This is your assignment.
And you
You literally
sometimes
are.
warn her, but like not really.
So then comes the dope man, and she hands him a stack of money
She
right in
hands
front
him
of
the whole
Jimmy.
stack. The whole
They had a
stack
little
she
bit.
was just handed,
They had a
she
little
hands
bit.
straight to him.
She kept a little bit out. She separated like a little bit, but the
Oh,
rest of it, it all goes to that dope man. Which again, this is right in front of Jimmy. Like
yeah.
we just talked about how he's a Fed, and now you're paying the dope man, and it wasn't conspicuous or anything
No.
inconspicuous. It was just straight. Here's a bag of dope. That thank you for my money. Then he leaves. Um, as they're continuing to party throughout the night, Jimmy goes to sit next to Rosalind, and she does not like it at all. She literally is like
Yeah,
pushing
she's
him
like,
across the
"No."
couch. They ask them, they start talking again about the money. Like, we can pay the dope man, but we can't, like, you're not paying us. And Freddie says that he's going to take everything except for her bra and panties to make up the money because he can't fit that shit. They start going through her clothes and stuff. Um, and Lester, who is apparently the only one that's got any goddamn sense in this situation, asks Jimmy, are you gonna follow us the whole fucking time? Right? Like, what's the
Yeah.
deal? Jimmy's like, I ain't got nothing better to do, which is a lie. This is literally your assignment. You're getting paid to do this. And
Yeah.
Lester's like, I trust you about as far as I can throw you. And Jimmy says, well, lady, trust me. And Billy immediately goes, no, I
No, I
don't.
don't.
Which also doesn't make any sense because, like, you just said the dope man, whatever, whatever.
Yeah.
So then they start talking about, oh, what if you catch Freddy, but he doesn't have anything on his person, but he has a trunk full of drugs? Can you be busted for, like, what are you busted for? And all of this stuff. And then Billy's like, all right, show's over. It's time for the main event. Which Rosalind is immediately like, deuces, I'm not sticking around for that. Which,
Yeah.
credit to her, I fucking wouldn't either. So
Yeah.
they start smoking weed, and then all of a sudden everybody's fucking slumped. Like Freddy's out on the ground with a pillow. Like everybody is fucking slumped, and Lester is sitting on the floor just mean mugging the shit out of Jimmy. And he's like, "Do it,
Yeah. They make
do
Jimmy do
it.
it.
If you are here, shoot up with us. If you with us, Mr. Federal Agent," is what he
Yeah.
says.
And he
And
does it.
Jimmy does.
And
He
then we
totally
proceed
does.
to get a really uncomfortable scene for me.
Oh yeah,
As
when
he gets
he
high, he sees baby Billy.
yeah, as like a six,
And
7
then
year old.
baby Billy takes him by the hand and leads him away. And I was like, I swear to God, if they turn this into a sex scene, I'm turning it
Oh
off
my
right then and
God.
there. I would have turned it the fuck off right then
That
and
was
there.
my immediate thought was like, this
I
is
was like, I
fucking wild.
swear to
Where is
God.
this going?
Yeah, but they didn't. They kind of Jimmy ended up kind of like fading into a background, and it shows you baby Billy walking through the brothel that she grew up in, looking for her mom, and
Yeah.
everyone's naked with a man, just being like, "Your mama's down the hallway,"
Hmm.
and and her mom finally comes in, and she's like 10, and she's like, "You can't live here anymore. You're another mouth. Go earn your own fucking food. Uh, you need to be taking care of these men like the rest of us are." And she's
Right.
like, I don't want to. I'm not ready. And she's like, they'll take good care of you. See you later. I can't do this anymore. Goodbye.
Hmm.
And then it kind of jumps back into Jimmy's body and Billy being like, that's love that you feel, but this love will never love you back. And like talking about the drugs of like, be careful.
Yeah.
And then we proceed to get just montage of happiness as her and
Mm, but
her
when they
and
go back on
Jimmy.
the road,
Yeah.
yeah,
And they get
going
back
back on the road,
together, or not back together, but they're officially together now. and she's wearing white in all these scenes, and it's all laughing
No,
and
not yet. Not
oh,
yet.
not yet.
Not there yet. No. No. So one thing I want to point out is when she's I think what she's doing, 'cause she starts talking to Jimmy while he's high. She's telling him how she was started working when she was 6. So I think she's like describing her memories to him. And he's kind of like visualizing it, but yeah, it was fucking jarring
Yeah.
suddenly seeing like a small child in the middle of all of this. But when she goes up to her room when she's trying to find her mom, she can't find her. Somebody calls her by the name Eleonora, which is her real name. She goes to her room and she lays down and she puts on a record from Bessie Smith, which is Ain't Nobody's Business. It's the original Ain't Nobody's Business.
Oh, there you
Uh,
go.
yeah, she's reading a comic and everything. But they get back on the road and they she pulls over so she
Oh,
can go
yeah.
piss in a cornfield.
Hmm.
And as she's trying to find a spot to piss in, she starts hearing a child crying. So she goes through the cornfield to try to investigate where this cry is coming from, and she stumbles upon a house. There's these two kids outside. There's like a burned down shed, and then there's a cross still burning totally on fire. And there's like chairs sat out and like benches. It almost looks like they had a fucking picnic.
Yeah.
Two kids are crying, and they're yelling at their dad to try to who is trying to get their mom down off of a tree with a wooden sign that says justice served.
Yeah.
It's
It's horrific.
yeah, it was absolutely
And the child
absolutely
is
horrific.
wailing. Let's like,
Absolutely losing it,
mama.
which makes sense
Like,
because like
oh
the
yeah, it
mother
is
and
soul crushing.
yeah,
Like,
and Bill and when she sees this, Billy just stares like
yeah,
she can't do anything. Jimmy ends up finding her, I'm assuming looking for her because she's taking so long to piss, and she almost collapses, but they're both
yeah,
just all they can do is just stare at what is happening. And Billy runs into the house, and then it's kind of a weird scene where it shows her she's running through this dark house, she's sobbing, she's throwing things. Jimmy tries to hold her as she's crying, tries to talk to her, but she totally pushes him away. Rosalind and Freddie come into the house and find her. She accepts Rosalind's hug for a little bit longer, but then she pushes her away too.
yeah,
And this is kind of when you really start to get the feeling that she doesn't know how to accept comfort or softness.
yeah,
It's not something that she is physically capable of accepting. So the house kind of morphs and she turns into this room and there's a dope man there. He's totally ready to go ahead and shoot her up. Jimmy rushes in at the last second, knocks that shit out. She gets mad as hell. She's still sobbing. She runs through the house some more, tries to put herself together, and then immediately gets ready to go on stage.
yeah,
It's immediate. And it's a total packed house in a big venue, a huge venue, and she is dressed in all white, which is an interesting choice because there's a lot of cultures around the world that white symbolizes a mourning color. You wear white
yeah,
to a funeral. And when she comes out, the band is not with her. It's just her. And she immediately launches into Strange Fruit, and this is the first time in the movie that we hear the actual lyrics of the song. This is the first time we hear the song in the movie, and she's singing a cappella, and it's rough to
yeah,
listen to. The whole crowd is silent. Nobody is saying a word as she's wailing this awful experience that she had. And it was very interesting the faces of the white people in the crowd versus the faces of the black people because
yeah,
it is causing the quiet for two different reasons for these
yeah,
two different kinds of people. And then we see a bunch of newspaper clippings of talking about how she's defying the Klan. She's singing Strange Fruit all over, like all over Georgia, all over South Carolina, all over the South. She's singing everywhere. Now, then you see Jimmy is at like a hotel outside. He's on the phone with Anslinger, and Anslinger is telling him, "We got to nail this bitch. We have to get her. Like now this is insane. Like this went from a problem to a fucking problem
Yeah.
in like a month. Like what the fuck are you doing? And Jimmy's like, she hasn't done any drugs. She hasn't done any drugs. Hangs up with him, and then we see the white Fed co-worker in a car outside the hotel watching Jimmy walk back into his hotel room with Billi.
Yeah.
Billi is awake. He thought she was asleep. She's naked on the bed, and she starts just fucking taunting him. She's like, "You were talking to your boss. You're telling him everything that I do." And Jimmy's like, "No, I'm really not telling him everything that you do." And then she's like, "Well, you tell him you fucking shot up and you've been fucking me this whole time?" And he's like, "No." And she's extremely agitated. She's just like, "Take off your fucking clothes." She keeps picking at him. The feds, what are they going to do for you? They're going to put your name in the paper. They're going to get you a new car, a new watch. I do that shit every day of the week. Like she's just picking at him. But he gets naked, and they start off really fast and hard, like every other sex scene that we've seen in the whole
Well,
movie.
and she
But
immediately bends over. And you'll notice
yeah,
that from the last sex scene too. It was always from behind for her. And he
yes,
kind of slows down and
yeah,
she's
he
like, "What's
pulls back.
happening?"
He pulls
Yeah,
back
she's
and
like,
he
"What are you
forces
doing?" And
it
he's
to be
like, "Turn
slower.
around." And she's like, "What?" It
Yeah,
was like,
she's
"You've
totally
never,
confused.
yeah,
She's totally
she's
confused. She doesn't know what to
never
do.
had it just missionary. Like, she's never made love. Like,
Right. She's trying to like fight with him. She's still
yeah,
trying to like come at it from anger and aggressiveness, and he just totally shuts all of that down. And again, and she's like jumping and like almost shying away from him. It's almost like a triggered reaction
yeah,
of somebody touching you, and like she doesn't know what to do with it. She doesn't understand softness. There's been no time in her life where she's experienced softness from another human being. She doesn't get it. And as soon as this scene happened, I knew it was the end. I knew it was the end for them. I knew she wasn't going to be able to take that. I knew it wasn't going to last. She was going to end up getting rid of him or hurting him in some way, which, like,
yeah.
honestly, he deserved it. But I knew that this wasn't going to last forever. So this is when they end up they got start going on cute little dates. They're like in a pond on a boat. She goes to dinner with him in Virginia at somebody's house. They're traveling. They're taking cute pictures with each other. They're taking cute pictures with the band. Like everything seems to be going like extremely well. And then we see the van is stopped on the side of the road and the band is outside playing baseball, which was really cute. But she's
Hmm.
on the bus as she's smoking and she's obviously thinking really hard. And she comes out of the bus with a bunch of luggage. And I was like, mm,
There it
I
is.
knew it. Sits down with
Yep.
Jimmy and is like, we got to talk. Like, here we go. Right. He knows what's going on immediately. And he tries to be like, let's just go back to New York. Just come back to New York with me. You can play. Like, we can do everything in New York. And she's just like, no, you got to find a nice girl. And it ain't me. This woman has actual zero real self-esteem. She
Yeah.
doesn't understand what he's offering her. She says that she's not in control. Like she doesn't know what to do with this.
Yeah.
It doesn't compute for her at all. And who the fuck comes riding up the road in a car? Fucking McKay.
Yep.
He yells out and he's like, "Hey, you told me you were stranded. Here I am. Get in. We're
Get
getting
in the
on a
fucking
plane.
car. I
Get in the
got a plane to
fucking car."
catch.
Yep.
And then she's
And
just gonna abandon everybody.
yeah,
Not
and
just
Freddie,
Jimmy. It's
no,
just fuck
everybody.
everybody.
And Freddie is like, "Hey, yo, we don't have no gas money. Like, what the fuck are you doing?" And she's like, "All right, Freddie and Rosalind, y'all come on." And I'm like, and Lester is like, "You don't fucking do this shit." And she's like,
You're,
I'll wire you some money tomorrow." And I'm like, "Wire it to where? They're in the middle of the fucking
yeah.
nowhere."
And in the South, by the way. I'm pretty sure the last road sign
Yes.
they showed was fucking Florida. Like,
Yes, you're correct. They're in the middle of the South. You have well, there's like a couple of white people in the band, but it's majority black people, and they're
yeah.
abandoned on the side of the road in a bus with no gas in it. And McKay just keeps yelling at her. She goes up to Jimmy, gives him one last little hand hold, and then McKay is like, "I got my eyes on you. I'm fucking watching you."
Which I thought was such a weird moment because I was like, what? Why? What?
Because I mean, she went back, right? He knows that they had something going on, so that's why he's saying,
I
"I'm."
Yes,
Fucking
but
watching
it's
you.
like she's
Don't
literally leaving him in front, like to
you
get
act
into
like
your car in front. Honestly, all you gotta do is smirk at the guy, like I fucking won. Like
you
it's
act like
weird to be
these
like,
people
I got my eyes on you. For what, bitch? You're taking
like
my woman on a plane. What are we
yeah, but
looking
I
at?
mean, fucking Jimmy's been showing up at every goddamn show whether they're together or not.
Well, that's true. He still is a Fed who
And he's still a fucking Fed, right?
under
Like
apparently undercover with her, but like she knows, so he's kind of like a double agent. I don't know.
I I don't fucking know.
But this was
He's
a weird
just
moment. But I was like, damn, Billy, your fucking band? You just abandoned your band.
I
Wow.
was upset for Lester. I was like, this man has been trying to help you this entire
Oh
fucking
yeah.
time. He has been your, like, seriously. So Jimmy gets back to the office and all of his shit is gone.
Yep.
And he gets told he's moving to administration. They want his coworker to take over the case, but his coworker looks at him as and says, like, this war on drugs is just a war on us. Like, he's coming to the realization that it's not, this is
Yeah.
not what they actually signed up for. And we see a montage of McKay. He's got Billy doing this comeback tour, and they're on a TV interview. And it's been at least 5 years at this point from her original arrest, because the interview was talking about how that was her actual comeback, was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Idiot. 5 years ago when she was actually arrested. And he says some stupid shit about how this is typically when they would introduce the family of the guest, but there's no one here for
But
Miss
you don't
Billy.
have
You
anyone,
don't have
Billy.
anyone that cares
You're a
about
lonely
you.
bitch. How's
What
that
the fuck?
feel?
Fuck you, interview guy. What the
Right?
fuck? And
Like,
but this is when she reveals that her and McKay are married now. Yay.
yes.
And she does not look good.
No.
She's still, again, she's very subdued. She's very like plain face. Like, she does not look good. And then we see fucking Jimmy watching the interview on TV in his apartment, and he's drinking milk out of the fucking glass jug, just straight up. Just what the fuck? What
I
was the
don't know.
purpose? You
But
didn't have to add that.
she's being beat. Like she has bruising around her eyes and stuff
Yeah.
while she's playing
Hmm.
her shows. So
Yeah,
she
they
left Jimmy to go be abused.
yep, and it shows a montage of her and McKay wearing all of these fancy clothes. She's going into Europe, she's going to France, she's going to Germany, she's putting out all these records. She wants to see the Pope, and McKay slaps the shit out of her, and then suddenly they're smiling for all the pictures,
Yep.
and they're both shooting up. He fucking passes out in a hotel room, and then suddenly the cops bust in again and arrest them. And then you see McKay talking with Anslinger, and they're talking about how there's not enough to make a case against Billy or McKay. So he wants McKay to plant some heroin onto Billy and make her talk. And McKay is like, I can't do shit. She's not going to
Yeah.
do what I tell her to do. And then they make some really gross commentary and jokes about basically beating a women into submission and forcing them. And he says that Billy wouldn't even have any money if he didn't, quote, keep her in line. Like, Jesus fucking Christ. So now we
Yeah.
see Miss Kelly's club in Chicago, September 16th, 1954. There's fucking Jimmy watching her again with some random lady, and McKay is in the corner talking to Jimmy's coworker.
Hmm.
She does not look good. Billy does not look good at all. She's got bags under her eyes. She looks like sallow. She does not look good, and it is not a party anymore while she's singing. There's no band. It's just her singing. It shows her in the green room. She's painting on her hairline. I'm assuming from hair loss.
Yeah.
And who the fuck comes back in there?
Fucking Jimmy.
Fucking Jimmy, immediately making out. Bold, bold, bold. Of course,
Yeah.
McKay comes in and catches him, beats the shit out of Jimmy, and then he tells him, "You can have the bitch," and he just
Yeah.
walks away. So now we're back with Leslie at the interview, and he's asking her about McKay because to the public, they seem so in love. There's all these pictures out of them, and then just poof, McKay's gone, and she's like, "We're separated, and he's trying to control my estate."
Yeah.
And she says, yeah, and Jimmy's helping me. And Freddie's like, I still don't fucking like that guy. He's still a fucking Fed. And Leslie's like, why is the government always after you? Like, what is happening? Why is this happening to you? And she says that strange fruit again is just, it's a reminder that they're killing us. That's why, you know?
Yeah.
And he's like, he says something about how this is why you're always in trouble. And he's like, I'll edit that out. It's fine. And she's like, no, don't edit that out. Anslinger is now in charge of Prohibition, and we're drinking right here. So don't edit this shit out. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
And Leslie's like, well, the war is on drugs. The war is not on you. And she's like, that's what they want you to think. They still want the name of my suppliers, but they don't really want the name of my suppliers.
Yeah.
They just want me to be out of the fucking pictures. And it's one of the few times that we see her crying, not out of total despair, but it's just bone deep sadness.
Yeah.
Like complete bone deep sadness. And Leslie even says, well, wouldn't it be easier to just behave and stop singing it? And she's just like, no.
Yeah.
And we see her at a recording studio, and she is fucking faded. She They've obviously been there for a long time. She can't remember what she's supposed to be singing. She's totally confused. She wants to do old songs that they've already recorded. She calls out for Jimmy. I don't even know if he was actually there or not, but she calls out for him, and Rosalind basically says, we're getting the fuck out of here. I'm taking her home.
Yeah.
It's it was awful to watch. And then we see newspaper articles about her falling on stage, about how she says she needs heroin to live. It's not a good time. But they're in shows them the bedroom of the apartment that she had in New York, and Billi is singing along to a record. Jimmy's laying on the bed, and Billi looks 10 times worse than she did before. Her
Yeah.
hair is definitely thin. Her teeth are stained. She is not looking good at all. She tells Jimmy that Lester passed away, and his wife will not allow Billi to sing at his funeral. She misses him, and then she's like, the last time we were all together, I abandoned everyone. But the way she says it is not like, it's like she's saying it because she regrets it, but then she's not able to actually process that emotion, so that she
Yeah.
immediately starts like laughing and stuff. And Jimmy tells her that he loves her. And the moment he says this, she's like, they say my liver's shutting down. It's cirrhosis. And it was like,
Yeah.
she still can't acknowledge it. She still can't.
Yeah.
Um, and even after she says that, she can't hold on to the serious moment. She just starts singing along to the song that's playing on the record player. Like
Yeah.
it's this total mishmash of moments that should be emotional, but she's not able to share and feel that emotion at all. It's just immediate change the subject. She doesn't
Yeah.
want it to sound as bad as it is. She wants to talk about it, but she can't make that connection at all. And then she starts fucking hacking. She can't fucking breathe. So Jimmy yells for the housekeeper, tells her to call a doctor, and they take her to the hospital where Jimmy is there with her. He's reading her newspaper about how people love her. There's huge crowds outside the hospital. She's still laying in the hospital bed, surrounded by flowers and pictures of her and Jimmy smoking a fucking cigarette. Her
Well,
lips
it
are
is the
all
50s. They all those bitches were smoking.
Jesus. So her lips are all cracked and shit. Her eyes are all yellow. Like she is not she's not doing good. She asked Jimmy
Yeah.
to paint her nails. He ain't got a clue how to do that, but he still tries to do it for her. And the way she's like looking at him totally breaks my heart, because like she obviously loves him, but she's not able to rectify that emotion within herself for someone that is actually kind to her. Still, she's on her fucking deathbed, and she still cannot fathom this relationship and this emotion.
Yeah.
So Jimmy goes downstairs, And there's his white coworker and Anslinger, and they threaten to link him to her if he quote unquote obstructs them, and they imply maybe he's the one supplying her. Who knows?
Like she's dying. My God. What are
Right?
y'all? Why are y'all in the fucking hospital? Like,
Right? And Jimmy tells them, you hate her. Despite all the shit in her life, she's made something of herself and you can't take it. She's strong, she's beautiful, and
and she's
black.
black. And that's
You
why you
can't
want to take
handle
her
it.
down. Yep.
And we see her, she's like laying in bed and she's staring at Jimmy across the room until she falls asleep. And he falls asleep too eventually. And then here comes fucking McKay rushing into the room, mad as hell, wakes everybody up, tries to fight Jimmy. Jimmy's coworker splits them up. McKay is trying to sweet talk her or whatever. And he's like, hey, baby, heard you wasn't feeling so good. And she looks at him and says, yeah, all of a sudden I'm not.
Yeah.
Like, now that you're fucking here. He wants her to go home with him, which is like, what the fuck?
Yeah. I was like, oh, so we're here to take the money, apparently. Like,
She asked Jimmy to come over to her so she can talk to him. The coworker has to hold McKay back because even in the fucking hospital, ain't got no sense. She asked him, "What do the critics think about my last record?" And he's like, "I thought you didn't give a shit what the critics think." And she's like, "Yeah, but I still want people to like it." And he's like, "Well, the critics didn't." And I'm like, "God damn, Jimmy." And he's like,
yeah.
"But I did." And that kind of perks her up a little bit, and she asks him to leave so that she can talk to McKay. And every time that he has left, quote unquote, for good in this movie, every time that they have parted and it's been significant parting where they're not going to actually interact with each other for a while, she says, "See you in church, soldier boy." And she says it one last time, "See you in church." So McKay is he's trying to act all sweet, but she fucking swats him off. He starts talking to her about signing some papers,
Yeah.
but he doesn't specify what those papers are yet. And when Jimmy goes outside through all the crowd, he finds Rosalind on a bench. She tells him she's got a nurse friend here that's been keeping her updated. And then she fucking loses it. Absolutely loses it. And she's like, they're going to take her off of the methadone, but she's in withdrawal, which methadone is a medication that they put mostly for heroin users to actually wean yourself off of heroin so you don't accidentally kill yourself going through withdrawals.
Yeah.
So here she is, she's in the hospital. I don't know if she's gotten surgery. I don't They don't tell us what actual treatment she's gotten, but she's got cirrhosis of the liver. She's a fucking addict and they're going to take her off the methadone with nothing else. That's a death sentence. A
Yeah.
total death sentence. And she begs Jimmy to do something. And that's when Jimmy's coworker comes over and says they're going to plant heroin on her. And they can't fucking do anything. No, Anslinger walks into the hotel room with the right federal coworker, and they start recording. He's telling her, "Oh, my wife's a fan," which is like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
McKay is speaking for her, and he says, "Oh, she's ready to talk now. She'll tell you what you need to know." Anslinger is telling her, "Oh, clear your name. That you won't ever have to see us again." Which, fuck you. That's
Yeah.
not true. And she even is like, "Fuck you. I'm not stopping singing the song. So y'all came up here for nothing." She says, "Y'all ain't got shit on me. Suck my black ass."
Yeah.
It's just like,
And I was like, get
fucking
it.
thank God.
I was like, fucking tell him, Billy.
And she is totally losing it laughing. She thinks it's so funny, and
Yeah.
everyone just
I would
walks out
fucking
of
laugh
the.
in their faces too, 'cause I'd be like, oh, I'm sorry, what are you gonna do? You
Yeah,
gonna
what has she
kill
got to
me?
lose?
Because
What's she
I'm
got to
already
lose?
fucking dying, asshole. So fuck you guys.
Yeah, what has she
Like,
got to lose?
yeah.
So then we see July 17th, 1959, Billie Holiday died. She was 44 years old. As we're seeing this on the screen, they're chanting in the background saying, "Let Lady live." The narcotics agents, they claim to have found heroin on her while she was in the hospital, and they did arrest her as she was dying. Again, it shows Jimmy trying to get into his fucking apartment that he can't figure out how to fix the goddamn door, but he ends up losing it and just like breaking down and punching the shit out of it.
Yeah.
Um, we see a bunch of old footage, which I'm assuming is actually from her funeral. It's a massive crowds of people. They're on the street everywhere. Um, And Harry Anslinger remained the commissioner of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics until his retirement at the age of 70. We see some footage of him receiving an award for his war on drugs from Kennedy. It says that Jimmy Fletcher did regret his actions while working for Harry and the U.S. government until the day he died. 1978, Strange Fruit was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame, and Time names it the song of the century, which is too fucking late. Way too fucking late.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. And then in February of 2020, the Emmett Till Anti Lynching Act was considered by the Senate, and at the time of this movie being made, it still had not passed.
But it's officially just been killed at this point.
I'll tell you later.
I just told you.
All right, so the true story.
Yes,
Uh,
let's see. Is this movie, because there's also that Marilyn Monroe movie that came out around this time that was supposed to be about her life. We'll have to do that movie one time, but it was not about her life. Like it makes her look horrendous and it's
yeah.
nothing like her life. So let's see. Did they do this to poor Billy, or was poor Billy this sad?
So she was born Eleanora Fagan. That's the name she went by, and she spelled it Elanora, right? But the name on her birth certificate was Eleanor Harris, and that was spelled Linore. But apparently she preferred it the other way, which is fair. I think that way is prettier.
Yeah.
She was born April 7th in 1915 in Philly to a teenage Sarah Julia Sadie Fagan and Clarence Holliday, who was I don't think if he ever I don't know if he ever fully claimed her or if everyone was just like, all right, yeah, that's your dad. But he was a jazz musician, and he did not stick around for long because
Mm.
he wanted to be a famous jazz musician, and you can't do that with a teenage wife and kid. So
Yeah.
sometime during her childhood, she moved to Baltimore. There's a lot of conflicting information about when exactly she moved to Baltimore and why. Some sources say that she was sent up there without her mother to live with like her aunts and like cousins and stuff. Some sources say that they both moved up there. There's no way to know for sure, really, at this
Yeah.
point. Um, and her mother did end up marrying a man by the name of Philip Goff in 1920, but that marriage didn't last long. So that would have been when she was about 5. She started skipping school. She got in trouble with, or she got her mom in trouble, more like it, with the law because of truancy. And they sent her to the House of Good Shepherd,
Mm.
which was a facility for quote unquote troubled African American girls in January of 1925. And she was only 9 years old when she went, and she was one of the youngest kids there. I think in August she ended up coming home. She didn't spend too long there, but sources say that by the time she was returned to her mom, she had been sexually assaulted. So that's really when it all began.
Yeah.
So 1929, around 14, both her and her mother move up to New York, and her mother does start working at a brothel in Harlem. And they said that she did end up being watched by some people sometimes, but she wasn't like fully kicked out. Like her mother never like totally kicked her out. Her mother never told her like go make your own money. Like that was a complete fabrication.
Mm.
Um, but according to a recorded interview from her cousin, who I don't know if they're really her cousin or not. Like there's no way. These are all super old recordings. She was always pretty, and men quote unquote played on her when she was a
Mm.
child.
Yeah.
And there are some sources that say that she started working with her mom, but again, there's no way to fully confirm that.
Mm.
Sometime around 1930, she started singing in clubs. So she was not an adult at this time. She was a teenager, early teens. And that's when she started calling herself Billie Holiday after a film star by the name of Billy Dove. So she took her father's last name and added Billy. Around 18, A producer named John Hammond heard her in a jazz club. He linked her up with a clarinetist and a band leader named Benny Goodman, and they started collaborating together. She started playing with his band, and her first commercial release, called Your Mother's Son-in-Law, was released around that time. And then in 1934, she's had a top 10 hit named Riffin' the Scotch. So she hit it hard and she hit it fast. People really
Mm.
liked her. They wanted to hear her. 1935, she's recording with a bunch of other people. She's doing What a Little Moonlight Can Do, Miss Brown to You. And then in that same year, she appeared with Duke Ellington in a actual film, The Symphony in Black. So when they show it in the movie and they act like, oh, now she's going to Hollywood for the first time ever. No, she had been in films for a
Yeah.
long time. The way that they portrayed it in the movie was kind of like, while she was with Monroe, all she was doing was these little clubs. And like, yeah, she
Yeah.
was popular, but that's really all she was doing. And it wasn't until like McKay became involved that she started like recording records and stuff. That's not true at all. She was doing the shit all by herself
Yeah.
as like an 18, 19-year-old. Um, and this is when she meets Lester. So Lester was a saxophonist in one of the bands that she was with. They became really good friends. He even moved in with her and her mom at one point. Um, but that's pretty much it. Like they were just good friends. There was like she he wasn't on her like official Billie Holiday band. She didn't have an official Billie Holiday band. She just played around with whatever bands would have her essentially. And but he does give her the name Lady Day. He did
Okay.
give her that nickname, and she did call him Prez like she did in the movies. And she did that because she thought that he was the best saxophonist of all time.
Yeah.
So she called him Prez like president. Um, and she does eventually join his actual band that he plays with, the Count Basie's Orchestra. Um, she tours with them actually in 1937, and then after that she worked with another guy in his orchestra, and that was the time when she became one of the first female black vocalists to work with a white orchestra.
Ooh.
So huge deal. She really didn't stay long with that band, mostly because again she was a black woman working with an all white orchestra and people didn't really like that.
Yeah.
But also, what made her so popular was the way that her voice sounds. It's kind of melancholy. It's not very upbeat. It's not very peppy or anything. And I don't know if it was just black audience versus white audience with the white
Yeah.
orchestra, but a lot of people didn't really enjoy her sound when she was working with the white orchestra. So she decided that she's going to go out on her own. And she does play at the New York Cafe Society. She basically developed herself there. Like when we see in the movie, she's wearing flowers in her hair all the time. That was really her thing. She always had, especially white gardenias in her hair when she was singing. The way she kind of tilts her head back, so she's singing kind of like up. She developed that there. And this is also the time when she writes God Bless the Child and Strange Fruit. Okay. She is signed at this time to Columbia Records, but they won't let her record Strange Fruit. So she goes to a different record company called Commodore and she records it with them instead. But the radios still don't really want to play it. But that doesn't stop its success because now you've got an element of like mystery and they don't want us to hear it. So people
Yeah.
eat the record up. Like people are buying it everywhere. Now, she sings it on stage, right? Legend says that she gets her first notice in 1939 from the Federal Bureau of Narcotics to shut the fuck up, and she didn't. But we'll get into that in detail in a minute. Um, Around this time, she buys her mom a restaurant for her mom to run to keep her
Aw.
busy, and she says to keep her out of my hair. Like she just didn't want to deal with her mom while she's running around with all these fucking bands and stuff. And the line from God Bless the Child that says, God bless the child that's got his own. She wrote that line after she went to the restaurant and basically asked her mom for some money because she bought the mom she bought mom the restaurant. So if I need some money from the restaurant, she get me some money from the restaurant. And her mom is like, "Fuck no, you're not borrowing any money from the restaurant." So she yells at her in the restaurant. She says, "God bless the child that's got his own." And she
Yeah.
walks out. Like, fuck off. I'll get my own money then.
Yeah.
And then she wrote a whole song with it. Now she does marry James Monroe, but not until 1941. So all the time it shows that like she's with him and she's just barely making her way while she's with him in the movie. That's not, she was already herself. She was
Yeah.
already fucking Billie Holiday when she met him at all. But he did get her addicted to opium. Before this, before she met him and married him, it said that she really only smoked weed.
Yeah.
She meets James, she gets a hit of opium, and it all
Fuck.
goes downhill from there. Um, she goes to Decca Records in 1944. So she's kind of like hopping around, just whoever will have her and let her make a record. Um, Now she does get a boyfriend in 1944. I don't know if she was actually divorced from Monroe by this time or not, but she does get a boyfriend, and it is Joe the Dope Man. Joe Guy was actually her boyfriend.
Fucking
And it
Joe the
was
dope
with
man.
Joe the Dope Man that she starts using heroin
I was
over
hoping
the
it was
opium.
Orson Welles.
The kid introduced her to, or she got with Orson Welles. No. Um, and in the movie, they don't have a romantic relationship at all. It's kind of almost like a kid brother kind of relationship. Like it's not showing them in any kind of romantic. Like
I
they're
didn't even
not
see him in which one was he?
Joe the Dope Man. That's like
Oh, I thought you were talking about Orson Welles. I was like,
no,
they didn't even
Joe the Dope
show
Man.
Orson Welles. Yeah.
No, Joe the Dope Man. Yeah, they didn't show him and her having a romantic relationship at
Yeah,
all,
they
but they
didn't. Yeah.
they showed
He
her
was just
having.
someone she got high with. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just her plug, you
Yeah.
know. Uh, October 1945, her mother passes away, and this is when the drug use really hits the top of the charts. Um, she does a film in 1947 in New Orleans with Louis Armstrong, but she is playing the role of a maid. But she does it. And in that same year, she's arrested and convicted for the first narcotics possession. And she did serve a year and a day. That is what she was sentenced with. But afterwards, I think she got out early for good behavior. And afterwards, she was sent to a federal rehabilitation facility in Alderson, West Virginia.
Hmm.
So she did actually go to rehab. Um, and when she got out of rehab and everything, her pianist met her at the train station, not the whole fucking crew, but he did bring the dog when he went to vet her. And apparently it caused a commotion because some lady thought the dog was attacking her, but she wasn't. The dog was just happy to see Billy. And
Yeah.
like the press, like the cops show up and then the press show up and everything. So it became this whole big fucking thing just because her dog was so excited to see her. Now they did strip her of her cabaret card, but it was because it's just the law. You couldn't hold a cabaret card if you were a felon. It
Yeah.
wasn't the feds like specifically blocking her.
Yeah.
It was just that's the rules. You're a felon now. You can't hold a cabaret card, and that was only like in New York City proper.
Yeah.
Like she couldn't play in Manhattan, but she could go where the fuck ever else she wanted to go. And she did sell out Carnegie Hall, and she did sing Strange Fruit there,
Okay.
but nobody freaked out. Everybody liked the song. And there wasn't any segregation at the venue to begin with. Carnegie Hall was kind of like, if you can buy a ticket, then buy a fucking ticket. Like,
Yeah.
there was no segregation. So her whole thing of the white people and black people, that was not her idea. That's just how Carnegie Hall worked. Um, and sometime in the 40s, she did get with Levi or Levy, whatever, and he did help her start playing in clubs in New York City again. He did have some kind of connections or he was able to swing that. And yes, he was a total fucking shithead. There's not a lot of
Perfect.
intimate details about their relationship, but it was known that he was fucking beating her.
Yeah.
She does get arrested again, and she does get acquitted because they don't have enough to hold her on. Uh, in the 50s, she's continuing to record. She's touring everywhere, but her voice starts to go because of the excessive drug use and all the
Oh no.
alcohol and everything. Her voice starts to go. But she did tour Europe. She did the whole thing. 1956, she sits down with a writer by the name of William Duffy, and they write an autobiography called Lady Sings the Blues. But here's the thing, she's still at the height of drug addiction when she's doing this with him, and she didn't even fucking read it after that came out.
Oh no.
She didn't read it at all, so there's no way for us to know if this autobiography is actually accurate or not.
Yeah.
Sometime after all of this, in the late 50s, she gets involved with McKay. And they are arrested in 1956 for narcotics. And then a year later, after they serve their time, they go down to Mexico and they get married. Her final performance was in New York City on May 25th of 1959, and then she was hospitalized soon after that for heart and liver problems caused by the alcoholism and the drug use. She was arrested in the hospital, and they even summoned a grand jury to the hospital to indict her as she lay dying. And Anslinger did force them to stop the methadone.
Wow.
Yes. So July 17th, 1959, she passed away in the hospital. McKay did all take all her fucking money. When she died, she only had 70 cents in the bank account.
Wow.
Mhm. More than 3,000 people turned up to say goodbye to her at the funeral at the St. Paul Apostle Roman Catholic Church on July 21st, 1959. She got a byline on page 15 of the New York Times about her death. She didn't get an actual obituary.
What?
Fucking disrespectful.
Yeah.
And she left an estate of only about $1,000, which would be about $10,000 today,
That
which is
motherfucker.
awful.
Yeah.
Awful. 1961, she was voted into the Downbeat Hall of Fame. In 1972, Diana Ross played her in Lady Sings the Blues, and Diana was nominated for an Oscar, and she did win a Golden Globe for that. Holiday was post I can't say that word. She was nominated after death for 23 Grammy Awards. And in 2000, she was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with Ross doing the honors of inducting her, which I think
Wow.
is really nice. Now,
Yeah.
the bill, right? The Emmett Till bill,
Yeah.
it was reintroduced for the 117th Congress with a revision in it to include serious bodily injury standard, and it was passed by the House on February 28th of 2002. Vote was 422 to 3, with Republicans Andrew Clyde, Thomas Macy, and Chip Roy the only ones voting no. Then it was introduced again to the Senate by Cory Booker, co-sponsored by Paul, Tom Scott, Raphael Warnock, and a bunch of other people, and it passed on March 7th, 2022.
Oh, it passed. I was
Yeah,
wrong.
that's why I said wait.
I was
I
wrong.
didn't want to go, no, you're wrong, but you were wrong.
I was wrong.
Yeah,
You
it
got
did
me.
pass.
You
Now,
got me.
the accusations that Billi slept around and she slept with women. Supposedly, she was known to sleep around with band players, and some of them thought it was odd if you didn't sleep with Billi. But the thing is, the way they talk about the jazz scene at the time, it was all sex, drugs, and rock and roll. So it
Yeah.
was just kind of it wasn't anything. You know
It
what I
was the
mean? To
music
them,
industry.
yeah, to them it was just yeah,
Yeah.
like it's just sex, whatever. But story goes that she did also sleep with women. She had another nickname of Mr. Billie Holiday. She
Mm.
would go around, and that also comes from Tallulah. She was friends with Tallulah, It said that she probably did have a relationship with her. Tallulah was a theater actor and she was also openly bisexual. So, but the thing about it is the way she talked about it, Billi talked about it, her mother would always tell her to be cautious around men and she would
Mm.
like push her to be friends with women. So some people say that that might be why she kind of had an affinity for women over men, unless it was like a serious relationship, because she
Yeah.
felt more comfortable. Like we're softer, we're nicer, we're kinder. It makes sense. Now, specifics from the movie. Joseph G. Glasser was Billi's manager, but he was also the manager of a shit ton of other jazz players, including Louis Armstrong. He didn't regularly attend his artist shows because of how many he fucking managed at a time. And there was absolutely no way that Glasser was in the FBI's pocket. It was, first of all, he was way too busy. And second of all, at this time, who controlled the clubs, especially in New York City? The fucking mob.
Yeah.
He's a manager for jazz players who play in the clubs.
Yeah.
He can't be associated with the FBI. He will fucking die.
Yeah.
Um, Billi didn't sing at the Earl Theater when they said she did. She wasn't there, and she didn't start off a set with Strange Fruit ever, and she didn't do a cappella. She always had a band. So the
Yeah.
entire scene of her singing the a cappella completely made up. She never got removed from stage either.
Hmm.
Never removed to stage. Now, the big question is, did they actually target her because of Strange Fruit? Maybe it's the fucking FBI
Yeah.
and this is the 40s and the 50s and the
Yeah.
60s.
Like the motive's there. I can believe it was
Possibly.
happening. But I
Yeah.
will say I don't like I feel like even after hearing the full history of it, and I just feel like this movie made her look unnecessarily bad. It's another movie where I feel like a man wrote a woman's part and gave her all of these men, the men to save her, the men to downfall. Like she's doing nothing but being tossed around, and it's all the men doing everything. Like I did not
Yeah.
enjoy this movie. Um,
Correct.
I also feel like I wrote down in my notes that somehow this movie's 2 hours long and still rushed. It's
Yeah.
very rushed. You do
Everything
not
is
have
rushed.
time in this movie to really like even feel
Sit. Yeah. You can't sit with
anything
anything. Hmm.
about what's supposed like what the main storyline is supposed to be happening of pretty much civil rights stuff, but it really just kind of whittles it really like flies over that stuff.
Well, I'll tell you what they did. I tell you exactly what they did. They focused on the romantic aspect with all of these men. That was their main
Yep,
focus. The focus of a Billie Holiday movie wasn't about Billie Holiday.
not at
It
all.
was about all of these men that she allowed into her life. And what they had to do is take this random like sampling of men that she was possibly probably involved with, and then they had to fit the timeline of her life in with the men. They had to push, you see it, they pushed all of the men's timelines up
Yep,
and made it so that in order for her to get anywhere and do anything, she had to be with this man who could provide that for her. When the
yep,
reality is she was doing it all by her fucking self.
yeah,
The men came after.
yeah,
Like they and the men, yeah, the men totally destroyed her. 100%. Every time that she is introduced into any new drug or any bad situation, there's a man involved for
yeah,
her. But the way that they laid everything on top of each other like that, it's just simply not true.
yeah,
And as far as the FBI situation, there's no declassified documents showing that they did it. It's all word of mouth and assumptions. And it seems to come from Billi saying at one point that she sung Strange Fruit until they told her to stop. But she never specifies who they is. Is it the FBI? Is it the government? Is it the audience that she was singing to? Was it her managers? Who fucking knows? But the time that she sang it at the Earl, that slot, that whole um show was marketed to families. So they could have very well just been managers or audience at that specific show being like,
Inappropriate.
maybe not.
Yeah.
And the author who originally wrote specifically about the FBI coming after her because of strange fruit, he's been in a lot of shit because of plagiarizing allegations. There's a lot of dark on his records. So the majority of people that study Billie Holiday and her history don't believe a word of what he fucking says. And her FBI file was only 10 fucking pages long. And it
Yeah.
talked only about the drugs. Like,
Yeah.
that's all it talked about. Now, Harry Anslinger himself presumably didn't talk too much about Billy. Like, he did write a book that was called The Murderers, which was specifically about narcotic gangs, and he called her a victim of, quote, hoods, quick money characters, grafters, and pushers. And then he wrote another book and he said that she, quote, the lady of the white gardenias and boxer puffs of traveling light and half a hundred other heartbreaking songs, end quote. So even when he talked about her, he talked about her as a victim of circumstance and as this really beautiful person.
Yeah.
So, like, this total campaign to shut her up, it's just not very likely. And if they were trying that hard, she wouldn't have even made it to liver failure. It
Yeah.
wasn't that long after her death that they just straight killed Martin Luther King Jr.
That's very
So,
true.
like, why would they do all of this and then participate in this major cover up for one song and then just wait for her to die of liver failure?
Yeah. Now,
It,
I
it
will say, I could believe maybe it comes down as like a half thing of like, maybe she would have never been pinched should the song have never come out,
right.
like that
It's like
put
a
her on a
chicken and the egg.
radar of them being
Right.
like, who's that? Let's maybe get her to pipe it down a bit. She's getting a little too
Right.
uppity.
Right.
I could totally feel that. And it does make me question of like, in what realm do we need to go after somebody on their fucking deathbed? Like, when is she's dying, bro? What are you talking? Well, you can't even get her to jail. What are we doing right now? Like, why was that necessary? And any other idea other than like we need to prove that we have our foot on these people and to
Hmm.
like chill the fuck out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the only reason that they did that.
Yeah,
And
but I
that's
do
they
feel like
100%. Anslinger was 100% involved in that, and he was pushing
yeah,
for it, and he took her off the methadone. That's 100% fact. That's in her
yeah.
FBI file that
And
he
I
made
feel
those
like
decisions.
you wouldn't do that unless you were trying to send a message, you know?
Right.
Because
But
that
you're
just doesn't
sending
make
a message
sense.
at the end of her life.
Yeah,
But like the
exactly.
whole campaign against the song
Yeah,
doesn't make sense. But the
no.
campaign, when you frame it in the war on drugs and specifically the war on black people with drugs, then yeah, her being chained to the bed as she's fucking dying makes total sense. As
Yeah,
it's a ghost story. It's a folklore to keep the
yeah,
kids out of the water. You know what I mean? Um, there was a biographer who has passed away who left behind a crazy amount of information about Billy. Like, she did a bunch of interviews, supposedly with about 125 people that maybe knew her. And in the entire time that they're doing these interviews, nobody mentions this campaign for the song at all. I'm pretty sure if you go on Hulu, there's an actual documentary about her just called Billy. And it
yeah,
plays, I think these are the recordings that it's talking about where they play it. And I did watch a little bit of it and listen to a little bit of it. And yeah, there's nothing in there about this campaign against strange fruit. And even in the autobiography, she talks about strange fruit and the effect it had on everyone around her. Nothing about this supposed campaign. So she died. I mean, 1959. She died. This is the middle of the civil rights movement.
yeah.
It just, it just doesn't make any sense.
I think
It's
this movie's full of shit. I
yes,
think it takes little truths and makes them into way bigger. But I also think this movie did a great job of making Billie Holiday look horrible. I mean,
yeah.
if
It
that
just
was
made
your
her look.
goal
It
to
made her
take
look like
this
the ultimate
legend,
victim.
yeah, to
Ultimate
take
victim.
this legend and drag her name through the mud, if that was your goal, good job, bud. Like,
Yeah.
this, no. I was kind of like, ew, with this movie. Very. And I
Yeah.
had a feeling that they were off. I was like, there's no way this was her fucking life, and this is the first time I'm hearing of it. Like,
Yeah, like no,
there's no
there's no
way.
way.
Yeah.
Um, so then my question was, what about Jimmy?
Yeah.
Because
Who
this
the fuck's
entire time
Jimmy?
I was researching, I didn't hear a fucking peep about Jimmy. Supposedly, well, not supposedly, he was a black man, one of the first black men in the FBI, and he was assigned to her, and he was assigned to follow her around the country. Now, the strip search scene comes mostly from his memory, where he gave an interview about it, and he says the whole situation just became really tense, and she did, I'm assuming, just be like, you fuck it, just take everything
Yeah.
off. But um, she even sent him a copy of her autobiography that she didn't read, and she wrote a note to him that said, quote, most federal agents are nice people. They've got a dirty job to do and have to do it. Some of the nicer ones have feelings enough to hate themselves for what they do. Maybe they would have been kinder to me if they'd been nasty. Then I wouldn't have trusted them enough to believe what they told me, end quote. So he did see her in the hospital, or he tried to see her in the hospital when she was dying, but she wasn't allowed up. So thread, this entire plot point through the entire movie about Jimmy, the FBI agent, falling in love with her and her falling in love with him and this whole torrid affair and her whole emotions about not knowing how to fucking love another person and be soft and gentle with someone is complete and utter bullshit. They
Yeah.
never had a romantic relationship. He didn't show up to every one of her shows. He was assigned to her and he did regret what happened to her. He did talk very, very highly of her. Um, and he called her, the thing that got me is he called her the quote loving type, said you had to be sympathetic to her because she was just so loving, basically, which then doesn't make sense the entire time if they're pushing the whole battered woman syndrome down your throat about how she
Yeah.
can't accept it. She can't even accept a hug from her friend when she's in so much distress. And then you have the real person saying she was very loving.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you talking about? So that whole
Yeah.
thing, complete utter bullshit. She did have very awful romantic relationships with men. Her cousin even told a story about her being proud of a black eye that she got once because her man gave it to her, basically like, "Look, we fought and he loved me so much that he punched me in the face." Um, Reginald didn't exist. Leslie's character didn't
Yeah.
exist at all. Rosalind probably exists, we think, but there's no information on her. Miss Freddie, same thing, probably existed, but there's no information on him either. And McKay was actually known as a sometimes pimp, but that's it. That's it. Every other storyline in the whole fucking movie is utter bullshit.
Yeah.
It's not accurate.
I had a feeling. I had a feeling. And I will say this movie does a great disservice. It just does. Because
Yeah,
it
it just
takes a complicated life and a very complicated situation of, your addicts, and it takes the very simple route of, yeah, she's an addict because she's not that great of a person. Like she can't even be loved. She can't even be touched. Look how scarred and damaged she is.
right. Yeah, look how
When
broken
that's
this woman is.
exactly. And look how these men have to deal with her. And oh, she had the good one, but she just,
Let him get
she just couldn't keep
away.
that good guy. And it's like she was an independent woman. She made her
Totally.
fucking way.
Totally.
Yes, shit happened, but she's been described as being loving and empathetic and caring.
And
And
people liked her. They liked being
yeah,
around her. And she, there was never this super secret FBI like stint to take her down, like fuck you in particular.
yeah.
No, it didn't happen. It's just all bullshit.
So honestly, I gotta give this movie maybe 2 stars.
Storytelling, it was good. Storytelling, if this wasn't supposed to be about a real person, then I'd be like, God damn,
I
like,
don't know. I still
damn.
don't think the storytelling was even that great. Like I said, it just felt really rushed. I just felt
It
like I
did.
couldn't I couldn't attach to anybody. Things were just happening too fast. I was like, you have 2 hours, slow the fuck down. Like,
Yeah, everything did happen real fast. They tried to
yeah,
shove way too much in it, and they did
yes,
that because they didn't have anything to fucking go off of
yeah,
because it wasn't true. So they had to shove it full of just shit
yeah.
the entire time.
It feels empty too. It just feels empty. Like,
Yeah, and it like the moments that we have that focus more on the treatment of black people, that could have been your story.
yeah,
Like, or you could not focus on black pain and you could have just told the story of Billi. She was an interesting person.
yeah,
You could have shown all of these different jazz musicians. You could have shown more of Louis Armstrong. Like, you could have shown how the recording in the jazz industry worked back then.
yeah,
That would have been interesting. You could have went more into prohibition and how did that affect her singing at the cabarets. You still could have showed her torrid love affairs with all the men, but you could have portrayed it accurately. But
yeah,
instead, you took a story of black excellence that was cut down due to drugs, and you framed it around nothing but black pain.
yeah,
The entire story is just black people's pain through the fake eyes of somebody who is one of the greatest singers ever.
yeah,
You turned her greatness into nothing but black pain in order
yeah.
to sell views.
And you just made her character like,
Vapid,
yeah, just
vapid
empty.
and broken.
Yeah. Like there was nothing to attach to. There was nothing to even truly empathize because you're supposed to have a start and a fall. And they just started her down at nothing and we just maintained that. So I can't even, you don't even get to be like, look at her up here. Oh, but she's falling. No, they were just like, no, she's just down
You
here.
you
This is
get a
where
couple
she's,
pictures and you get a scene on a boat,
yeah,
a cute scene on a boat, and then
that's it.
you get her pushing away and being shitty to her fucking bandmates. Like,
Yeah. They really play her as like the only time she's put together is when she's on stage. Otherwise,
yeah,
she's a hot
total
mess in the
fucking
back.
mess.
Yeah.
Total fucking mess. You didn't
Yeah.
have to do that.
No.
Yeah, I didn't like this movie very much either.
No. Not at all.
Like, I mean, the production value
It can
was
look good.
good. It was
Yeah.
excellent. The
Cinematographer did
costuming,
their job. I
yeah, costuming was great. Again,
Oh
it was
yeah.
absolutely stacked with
Oh
talent,
yeah.
which I love to see, especially in a black film. I love to see all of that. Everyone getting a
Yeah.
role. I love that.
And I think they all did a good job. I think
They
the
did an
acting
amazing job with what
was
they
well
had.
done.
Yeah. But
Um,
the
I don't know if we
contents,
blame the producers, director,
the
writers
writers,
for this, but
it's the writers and producers.
somewhere
Yeah.
in that pocket,
The
things went
writers
very
and
wrong.
producers.
Yeah.
Most likely it starts with the producers and it starts with the studio heads of wanting to
Oh
put out
yeah.
a movie and then
I
the
do
writers.
wonder if this is one of those movies that started out like amazing and historically accurate
Oh,
and
like the idol, and
yeah,
then it
and
gets,
then
yeah, possibly,
the big guys came in and was like, let's not do that. And let's ruin
maybe,
everything as they are ones to do. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt that that's what happened. That they had a great movie and then the studio heads came in and fucked it all up and then that's what
maybe.
they got.
I
But
mean, you never know. A lot of
yeah,
times when that, I mean, usually when that happens, we'll hear about it and like somebody will open their mouth, but sometimes they don't.
yeah,
Especially right now with the fucking strike and everything going on. Probably not,
yeah,
but it's possible. Like it was just really disappointing.
it was.
And it's
It was.
sad because I feel like we had more fun on like fucking Scream and
We
shit.
did. Scream
And
was a
like
good time,
I wanted to watch this movie because I was like, yeah, hell yeah, I want to know.
right? Like
Hell
girl, I was
yeah.
excited. I was like, "Fuck yeah, I want to learn about Billie Holiday. Let's what she do?"
I literally
Oh, they
I've
made
had
her
her,
a fucking junkie sad. Okay,
right.
great, cool.
the fuck is wrong with you?
Thanks.
When there were so
Right?
many interesting things about her life that you could have
Oh
just
yeah.
fucking shown it. Like the scene with if you would have put a scene with her mom in the restaurant and yelling, like that would have been hilarious. That would have been
Yeah.
so good. And showing her songwriting, like it's just disappointing, man.
Yeah. For sure. Doesn't 2 stars. Skip it. It's not worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'd give it like 2 or 3 stars to you.
Yeah.
Not good.
And it just makes you sad. It just makes you be like, fuck, great.
Yeah, watch Beale
Just
Street instead.
right?
Watch actual black excellent movies. Don't watch
Not
pure
this.
black pain.
This isn't it. Yep.
Mm-mm.
But that's our show, guys. You have a great week.